Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Reddit Slumber. It's that time of night to put away your worries and get lost in a fresh batch of stories from Reddit. If you find yourself relaxing to these videos, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Now, sink into your pillow and let's get straight to the stories.
Story 1.
I've always been the guy who fixes things. Leaky faucet, bad investment, broken heart, didn't matter. I'd roll up my sleeves and make it right. So when my son Leo sat me down at the kitchen table looking like he was about to confess to a felony, I prepared to fix his life. He was 18, a good kid with a bright future. "Dad," he started, his voice cracking. "Kate's pregnant." I just nodded. No yelling, no panic. Panic doesn't solve problems. "Okay," I said, my voice even. "First we make a plan." And I did. They were kids living with their respective parents working part-time jobs at the mall. They couldn't raise a baby in their childhood bedrooms. So I moved them in with me. It was a big house. Way too big since my wife passed and the quiet was starting to get to me anyway. I gave them the entire second floor. Kate was a sweet girl, if a little shy. Scared mostly. Her own parents were less than thrilled, offering a lot of "I told you so" and not much else. I stepped in. I wanted them to know they weren't alone. This baby wasn't a mistake. It was a new chapter. My big project one was the nursery. The room next to theirs was just collecting dust, so I went to work. I didn't just slap some paint on the walls. I mean, I did that a nice soft gray, but I did everything else too. I spent a weekend assembling a top-of-the-line crib, a matching dresser with a changing table on top, and a glider rocking chair that cost more than my first car. I hung little animal prints on the walls and installed blackout curtains. When I was done, it looked like something out of a magazine. Kate cried when she saw it. Real happy tears. "Gabriel, you didn't have to do all this," she whispered, running her hand over the smooth wood of the crib. "Of course I did," I said, clapping Leo on the shoulder. "I'm going to be a grandpa. This is what we do." They were good kids. They saved their money, Leo got a promotion at the electronics store, and Kate found a remote data entry job she could do from home. 6 months in, they told me they'd found their own place, a small 2-bedroom apartment about 15 minutes away. I'll admit, a part of me was sad to see them go, but I was bursting with pride. This was the goal. I had given them the foundation, and now they were building their own life on it. I helped them move, of course, hauling boxes and setting up the nursery furniture I'd bought, making sure it looked perfect in their new home. Everything was going smoothly until the final month. The doctors found an issue with the baby's position breech, they called it. A C-section was scheduled for the 15th. Leo called me with the news. "Dad, they set the date. Tuesday, the 15th, 8 a.m. "Got it," I said already, pulling up the calendar on my phone. "I'll clear my schedule. I'll be there by 7. Do you need me to bring coffee?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. A weirdly long one. "Dad, hang on." I heard some muffled whispering, and then Kate's voice came on the phone. It was lighter than Leo's, but it had a strange tension to it. "Hi, Gabriel." "Hey, Kate." "Getting excited?" "Yeah, definitely." A little nervous, she said. "Listen about visitors at the hospital. Leo and I have been talking, and we've decided we don't want anyone there." I laughed. "Right. You don't want a whole parade of your high school friends coming through." "I get it. Don't worry. It'll just be me." "No," she said, and the word was suddenly sharp. "I mean no one. Except my sister Sarah. She's going to be my support person." The gears in my head screeched to a halt. "What are you talking about? I'm the grandfather." "I'm not a visitor." "I know, and we're so grateful for everything. But I'm going to be recovering from major surgery. I want those first couple of days to be just for us to bond as a family. And, well, to figure out breastfeeding, I need my privacy." Privacy. The word felt like a slap. After everything I'd done, the room, the furniture, the financial support, the goddamn emotional stability I'd provided when her own family wouldn't. She wanted times privacy, times from me. Kate, that doesn't make any sense, I said, trying to keep my voice reasonable. I'm not going to be watching you breastfeed. I just want to meet my grandson. There's another thing too, she said, her voice getting even more formal. The hospital is very strict about who can be around the baby. Have you had your Tdap booster recently? For whooping cough. I scoffed. A shot. That's what this is about. I can go get a shot, Kate. That's not a problem. It was just one more ridiculous hurdle she was throwing up. One more excuse. It's not just the shot, Gabriel, she said, her frustration finally showing. This is a C-section. It's a serious operation. I'm going to be in pain, and I'm not going to be up for entertaining. This is where I lost my patience. I'd seen this surgery in movies 100 times. I knew what it was. She was being dramatic. Entertaining. Who's asking you to entertain? It's a C-section, Kate, not open heart surgery. They make an incision, they take the baby out, they stitch you up. You'll be fine. It's not like you'll be bleeding all over the place or anything. The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. It was so cold I felt it through the phone. I knew I'd messed up, but I couldn't figure out how. I was just stating facts. I decided to offer a solution. A perfectly logical compromise. Look, I said, my voice softening. I get it. You want your space. Fine. How about this? You can stay in your room all private for as long as you want. Leo can just bring the baby out to the waiting room for me. I'll hold him for 10 minutes, meet my grandson, and then I'll leave. You won't even have to see me. I waited proud of my brilliant simple fix. It gave her exactly what she said she wanted while still letting me have the one thing I cared about. Another long, terrifying silence stretched out. When Kate finally spoke, her voice was completely different. It was low, tight, and vibrating with a fury I had never heard from her before. Let me be perfectly clear, Gabriel. Each word was a chip of ice. Nobody is taking my newborn baby away from me. Not for a second. Not you. Not anyone. The line went dead. Not a hang-up slam, just a cold final click. I stared at my phone, the silence roaring in my ears. Fury, hot and pure, burned through me. This wasn't about privacy. This was a power play. I immediately redialed. Leo picked up on the first ring, his voice tentative. Dad. Put her back on the phone, I commanded. She's not going to. I don't give a damn what she's going to do, Leo. I am your father. I gave you a roof over your head when you had nowhere else to go. I built a nursery for your son with my own 2 hands. I have earned the right to meet my grandson. The words tumbled out, each one coated in the acid of betrayal. It's not about earning anything, Dad. It's her body. It's her recovery. Her body, I laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. This is what this is. She's a narcissist, Leo. She's making this all about her. What about you? What about your father? Do we not matter? Are we just walking ATMs to you? I didn't just give you money, I gave you a foundation. I bought you stability. And now I'm being treated like some infectious disease. That's not fair, he shot back, his voice finally gaining some steel. She's not a narcissist, she's scared. She's about to have surgery, and she wants comfort and privacy, not a performance. A performance, 10 minutes. I asked for 10 minutes to hold the baby I practically paid for. I feel completely and utterly exploited. I poured my heart, my time, and my money into setting you two up for success, and this is the thanks I get. Banned from the hospital. You're just a poor boy caught in the middle, letting her run the whole show. Stop. The word was quiet, but absolute. Don't call me a poor boy, and don't talk about my wife like that. My wife. He'd never called her that before. The word cemented them into a unit, a fortress, with the drawbridge pulled up, leaving me outside. Unbelievable, I muttered, shaking my head at the kitchen wall. She's got you completely brainwashed. No, Leo said, his voice heavy with a finality that chilled me to the bone. She's got my back. And I've got hers. We'll call you when we're home and ready for visitors. He hung up. I stood there, phone in my hand, vibrating with a rage so profound it left me breathless. They were ungrateful. She was manipulative. He was weak. I was the victim here, the generous patriarch being cast aside by a selfish girl who had poisoned my son's mind. Fine. If they wouldn't listen to reason, maybe the rest of the world would. I stormed to my laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. I found a forum, one of those Am I the Asshole places. I laid it all out, the unexpected pregnancy, how I took them in the thousands I spent on the nursery, the apartment, the pride I felt. I painted myself as the supportive, heroic grandfather. Then I described Kate's sudden, inexplicable demand for privacy, her ridiculous excuse about a booster shot, and her refusal of my perfectly reasonable compromise. I framed her as ungrateful and controlling. I called my son a poor boy caught in the middle. I hit post and waited for the validation to roll in. It didn't. The first comment appeared within a minute. YTA. C-sections are major abdominal surgery. Your comment that she wouldn't be bleeding is one of the most ignorant things I've ever read. Another followed. YTA. A nurse here. Post-Gabriel C-section patients bleed heavily. It's called lochia. They have a catheter. They're on narcotics. And they're trying to learn how to feed a baby with a 6-inch incision in their abdomen. The last thing she needs is her overbearing father-in-law demanding a meet and greet. The post came in like a tidal wave, a deluge of acronyms and brutal honesty. YTA, YTA, Major YTA. You didn't give them a gift. You bought a ticket. Your generosity came with strings attached. And now you're pissed they won't let you cash it in. She's not a narcissist for having boundaries. You're an entitled asshole for trying to stomp all over them. Poor boy caught in the middle. He's a father. He's a partner. His job is to support his recovering wife and newborn, not cater to his daddy's hurt feelings. He's not caught in the middle. He's exactly where he's supposed to be, on their side. Each comment was a punch to the gut. I read them for an hour, my righteous anger slowly deflating, replaced by a cold, creeping shame. They were right. All of them. My ignorance about the C-section was appalling. My compromise wasn't a compromise. It was a demand to separate a mother from her baby moments after birth. My generosity wasn't selfless. It was a transaction. Why had I been like this? Staring at the screen at the unanimous verdict from hundreds of strangers, the truth finally broke through the wall of anger I'd built around myself. It wasn't about entitlement, not really. It was about terror. 2 years ago, I was in a hospital waiting room just like the one I'd planned to be in for Leo. My wife Eleanor was in labor with our second child, a girl we were going to name Chloe. There were complications. Preeclampsia, they said. It happened fast. 1 minute I was expecting to meet my daughter, the next a grim-faced doctor was telling me they couldn't stop the bleeding. I lost them both. I never fixed it. I couldn't. I just stood there useless while my world ended. This time with Kate and Leo, I thought I could control it. I could provide, plan, and protect. I could be there on site ready to fix anything that went wrong. My desperate need to be at that hospital wasn't about meeting my grandson. It was an irrational, deep-seated terror that if I wasn't there, I would lose them too. My control wasn't about power. It was about panic. The shame was absolute. I hadn't been a supportive father. had been a bully terrorizing two scared kids because I couldn't face my own ghosts. My hands trembled as I typed out an update to my post. Update. You're all right. I am the asshole. No question. I read every single comment, and you've shown me something I was refusing to see. I was wrong entitled, and my behavior was inexcusable. There's no excuse, but there is a reason. 2 years ago, my wife and infant daughter died from complications during childbirth. I was in the waiting room when it happened. I think I've been driven by a terrible fear that I can't explain, and I took it out on my son and his girlfriend. I tried to control their birth experience because I had no control over my wife's death. It's not their burden to carry, it's mine. I'm going to call my son and apologize. I'm going to a clinic tomorrow to get my Tdap booster. And then I'm going to wait until they are ready. Until they invite me. Thank you for the wake-up call. I closed the laptop. The house was silent again, but it felt different now. The quiet wasn't empty. It was heavy with the weight of my mistakes. I had one more thing to fix. But this time it was myself.
Story 2.
The brochure felt heavier than it should, its glossy pages sticking slightly to my fingertips in the humid August air. On the cover, a celestial silver Toyota Camry gleamed under a perfect studio-lit sky. Inside, I'd circled the XSE trim package. Red leather interior. Panoramic glass roof. The works. For 17 years, I'd been a master of practicality. Sensible shoes, used cars, coupons clipped and filed in a worn-out accordion folder. Now, I was about to do something wonderfully, gloriously impractical. I'd earned it. I'd earned it, pulling 1 2-hour shifts as an obstetric sonographer, my eyes burning from staring at grainy black and white screens, searching for the flutter of a new heart. I'd earned it through night classes at community college with my son Liam, then just a toddler asleep in his car seat in the back of the lecture hall. I'd climbed my way from a cramped apartment that always smelled of my neighbor's curry to this quiet little house with a garden I mostly killed but loved anyway. This car wasn't just a car. It was a trophy. It was proof. It was for Liam. My brilliant, funny, hardworking Liam, who was about to start his senior year. He'd never once complained about our sputtering 2012 Honda Civic. He just smiled, thanked me for the ride, and never asked for a thing. He deserved this. My ex Kevin had also been handed a trophy once, a full-ride athletic scholarship to a D1 school. He'd taken that trophy and pawned it for poker chips and cheap beer. He dropped out after 2 semesters, racking up a mountain of gambling debt that followed him like a stray dog. Now at 33, he was living in his parents' basement, bouncing between stocking shelves at Target and ringing up PBR at the local gas station. He didn't even have a car. I hadn't seen him in months, which was pretty standard. He'd text Liam on his birthday, maybe throw $20 in a card at Christmas, but that was the extent of his fatherly duties. The person I did talk to, surprisingly, was his sister Chloe. We'd managed to stitch together a functional, friendly relationship over the years for Liam's sake. She was his aunt, after all. She sent him gift cards, came to his soccer games, and always asked how he was doing in school. So, when my phone buzzed with her name, I answered with a genuine smile. "Hey you," I said, setting the Camry brochure on the kitchen counter. "Penny, how are you? How's my favorite nephew?" Her voice was always a little too loud, a little too cheerful, but it was usually a welcome dose of energy. "He's great. Just gearing up for senior year. You know, homecoming plans, college applications, the whole 9 yards." "Oh my God, I can't believe it. It feels like yesterday you were showing me his first ultrasound picture." I laughed. "Trust me, I know. That's actually why I'm so excited. I'm doing something huge for him, top secret." "Ooh, dish, I can keep a secret." I took a deep breath, the thrill of it bubbling up inside me. "Okay, but you can't say a word." "I'm buying him a car." "No way, a car. That's amazing. The Civic finally kicked the bucket." "Not yet, but it's on its last legs." "No, this is a real car." A new one. I'm surprising him with it before school starts. I'm getting him a 2024 Toyota Camry. Silence. Not the excited gasp for air kind of silence. It was a dead, heavy silence that sucked the air out of the room. I could hear the faint sound of a TV in her background. Chloe, I asked, my smile faltering. You there? A new car, she finally said, her voice stripped of its earlier cheer. Like a brand new off-the-lot car. Yeah. The XSE. It's his dream car. He's obsessed with it. Wow, she breathed. But it wasn't a happy wow. It was a shocked, wind knocked out of you wow. Penny, that's a lot. It is, I agreed, my pride puffing my chest out. I've been saving for over a year. He's earned it. I'm sure he has, she said slowly, cautiously. It's just... Have you thought about what this will do to Kevin? I blinked. The question was so far out of left field I almost laughed. What does Kevin have to do with this? Well, think about it, she said, her tone shifting from cautious to condescending like she was explaining something to a child. Your son, his son, gets a brand new $34,000 car. And his dad can't even afford a bus pass half the time. He's carless, Penny. He's 33 and he has nothing. This will absolutely crush him. The thrill I'd been feeling curdled into a hot, tight knot in my stomach. Chloe, with all due respect, managing Kevin's feelings is not my responsibility. It hasn't been for a very long time. This is about Liam. But at times, as times about Kevin, how is he supposed to feel like a father? When you're pulling stunts like this, you're making him look like a deadbeat. He times is times a deadbeat. I snapped the words out before I could stop them. He made his choices. He chose gambling over his scholarship. He chose video games in his parents' basement over getting a real career. I chose our son. Every single time. I worked for this. Liam deserves this. End of story. It's not the end of story, she shot back, her voice rising. You're doing this times to times him. I know you are. It's a power move. You're rubbing his face in your success and his failure. I was floored. I stood there in my kitchen, the glossy photo of the silver Camry seeming to mock me from the counter. All the joy, all the pride I'd felt just moments before was gone, replaced by a furious, buzzing indignation. You are unbelievable, I said, my voice low and shaking. This has nothing to do with you or your brother. This is a gift for my son. I'm not going to apologize for being a good mother and providing for him. Being a good mother doesn't mean you have to be a cruel ex, she retorted. You could at least show a little compassion. Think about someone other than yourself for a second. I actually did laugh then, a bitter, humorless sound. I have to go, Chloe. No, wait, Penny, just think about it, she pleaded, a note of desperation creeping in. Just hold off for a few days. Let me talk to him. Maybe we can figure something out. Figure what out? I demanded. There is nothing to figure out. I am buying my son a car. Goodbye. I hung up before she could say another word, my thumb jabbing the screen with more force than necessary. My heart was pounding in my ears. I stared at the phone, half expecting her to call right back. For a few minutes, there was only silence. A deep, unsettling quiet that felt like the air holding its breath before a storm. The quiet lasted for 2 days. 2 days of me second-guessing my own excitement, 2 days of a low-grade anger simmering under my skin. Then on Wednesday afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Chloe. I let it go to voicemail, but she immediately called back. And again. On the third try, I sighed and answered, putting her on speaker. I have a solution, she announced, skipping any preamble. It's an amazing compromise, Penny. I talked to Kevin. My blood ran cold. You told him. It wasn't a question. Of course I told him. How else were we supposed to figure this out? He was upset, obviously, but he understands. He wants to be a part of this. For Liam? I waited, my fingers drumming a silent, furious rhythm on the counter. Go on. Okay, she said, taking a deep, theatrical breath. So Kevin has been saving up. He's going to contribute $80 to the car. I stared at the phone. I must have misheard. 80. Yes. And I'm going to match it. So that's $160 total. From his side of the family. She said it with such magnanimous pride as if she were announcing a multi-million-dollar endowment. I was so stunned I couldn't even form a word. So she continued barreling into the silence. The plan is, you buy the car, we give you the cash, and you tell Liam it's a joint gift. From his mom, times and times his dad. That way Kevin feels included, he doesn't look like a total failure, and he can use this to get closer to Liam. Isn't that great? The silence stretched. It was the sound of 17 years of single motherhood, of scraped knees and late-night fevers of parent-teacher conferences, attended alone and birthday parties paid for on a credit card, all crashing down into one single, crystallized moment of absolute audacity. I picked up the phone, my voice flat and cold as ice. No thanks, Chloe. I have it covered. I hung up. The phone rang again instantly. I ignored it. A text message notification lit up the screen. Asterisk, Chloe. Are you kidding me? Asterisk. Another one? Asterisk. Chloe, I'm trying to help my brother be a father, and you're shutting him down, asterisk. The phone rang again. I silenced it, but the text kept coming, a rapid-fire assault. Asterisk, Chloe, you are the most selfish idiot I have ever met. Asterisk. Asterisk, Chloe. It's $160. You won't even let him do that much for his own son. Asterisk. Asterisk, Chloe, you are doing this just to hurt him. I knew it. Asterisk. The phone rang a fourth time. This time I answered my patience, completely gone. What I snapped. You have two choices, she shrieked, her voice cracking with fury. Either you let Kevin chip in and take credit for the car, or you don't buy the car at all. You will not humiliate my brother like this. An ultimatum. She was giving me an ultimatum about a gift I'd saved for a gift for my son, a gift that had absolutely nothing to do with her or the 33-year-old man-child living in her parents' basement. I was no longer just angry, I was baffled. I felt like I'd been dropped into a different dimension, where I was responsible for the fragile ego of the man who chose a poker table over his own family. Where my success was a weapon and my son's happiness was collateral damage. Let me make sure I understand, I said, my voice dangerously calm. You want me to either lie to my son about a $34,000 gift or cancel it entirely to protect the feelings of your deadbeat brother. He's not a deadbeat, he's just had a hard time. Goodbye, Chloe. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Then I blocked Kevin's. Then, just to be thorough, I blocked their mother's. I sat in the ringing silence of my kitchen, my hands shaking. The joy was gone. They had tainted it, smeared their grubby entitled fingerprints all over my beautiful, perfect plan. For about an hour, I let myself fume. I paced. I cursed them both out loud to my empty house. I almost considered calling the whole thing off, just trading in the Civic for a slightly less old Civic. Let them win. Let them keep their pathetic pride intact. Then I looked at the brochure on the counter. The gleaming silver car. The red leather. I thought of Liam's face. I thought of every single sacrifice, every long shift, every lonely night I had pushed through to get to this moment. And I thought times, oh, hell no. Asterisk. My rage cooled and hardened into something sharp and clear. An idea bloomed in my mind, a perfect, petty, and deeply satisfying idea. I unblocked Chloe's number. My thumbs flew across the screen. Asterisk. Me. You know what? You're right. I was being selfish. I will accept Kevin's contribution. Asterisk. Her reply was almost instantaneous. Asterisk. Chloe, I'm so glad you're seeing reason. This is what's best for Liam. Asterisk. I smiled, a real sharp-edged smile. I opened the Venmo app. I typed in Chloe's username, the one I used to send Liam gift money from her. I hit the request button. Amount? $160. For 0.47% of Liam's 2024 Toyota Camry. Per our agreement, I hit send. Then I blocked her number again for good this time. The next morning, I walked into the Toyota dealership alone. The air smelled of new rubber and clean plastic. I found the silver XSE from the brochure sitting on the showroom floor, its paint job so pristine it looked wet. I ran my hand over the cool metal of the hood. This was mine. I did this. An hour later, I was sitting in the driver's seat, the red leather soft beneath me. I gripped the steering wheel, the keys, a heavy, solid weight of accomplishment in my hand. I hadn't just bought a car. I had bought my freedom from their drama. I had refused to let a deadbeat's pathetic insecurity dictate my son's happiness. I had paid in full, and my name was the only one on the title. I backed the car out of the spot, the engine a low, satisfying hum. I was going to get the biggest, reddest bow I could find. And when Liam saw this car, his car, the story he would hear would be the truth, that it came from his mother, who loved him, who worked hard for him, and who would never ever let anyone else take credit for it.
Story 3.
Last year's vacation was a 7-day hostage situation where the kidnappers were my 3 nephews. I'm 23, and since graduating college and moving back home to save up for a deposit on a house, my official family title has become the unpaid help. This glorious role reached its peak at a beachfront hotel in a room I was forced to share with my sister's kids. Let me paint you a picture. The main bed went to Liam, who is 8 and believes sleep is for the weak. The other bed was for the 5-year-old twin agents of chaos, Noah and Sam. My bed, a pull-out couch with a metal bar strategically placed to fuse with my spine. My alarm clock was Cocomelon at 5:45 a.m., followed by demands for juice wrestling matches that used my stomach as a trampoline and the constant sticky residue of a half-eaten granola bar being wiped on my arm. I saw the beach 3 times. Once to build a sandcastle under duress, once to retrieve a runaway kite, and once to sprint after Noah, who had decided to become one with the seagulls. The rest of the time I was the on-call babysitter while my sister Chloe and her husband Mark enjoyed romantic dinners, long walks on the beach, and an actual vacation. When I tried to complain, my mom just waved her hand dismissively. Logan, we paid for your room. The least you can do is help your sister out. She has her hands full. My dad just nodded. Family helps family, son. That was the line. Family helps family. In my family, it's a one-way street. It means Logan helps Chloe, the golden child, who can do no wrong. It means my time, my energy, and my sanity are all disposable resources for her convenience. So when we were all at my parents' place for Sunday dinner a few weeks ago, and my mom clapped her hands together with a giddy smile, I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. I have the best news, she announced. I know how much everyone loved the beach last year, so I booked it again. Same week in July, same hotel, everything. She and my dad beamed, looking around the table, waiting for applause. Chloe lit up already, pulling out her phone probably to shop for new bikinis. Mark gave me a tired, sympathetic glance before turning his attention back to his kids who were currently trying to build a fort out of mashed potatoes. They all looked at me. I was the last holdout. I just stared back my fork frozen over my plate. My dad cleared his throat. Well, isn't that great, Logan? I put my fork down. I took a slow sip of water. I'd been thinking about this moment for a year. I'd rehearsed it in the shower in my car while lying awake at 3 a.m. That's great, Mom, I said, my voice perfectly level. I'm glad we're going. A wave of relief washed over their faces. Chloe smirked a little. I knew you'd cave expression she'd perfected since childhood. Just one thing, I continued, letting the silence hang for a second. I'll be driving down separately, and I've already booked and paid for my own room. The quiet that followed was deafening. My dad's fork clattered onto his plate. My mom's smile evaporated. Chloe was the first to speak, her voice sharp and laced with disbelief. You what? I booked my own room, I repeated, looking directly at her. King bed, ocean view, no pull-out couch. What are you talking about? She snapped her phone, now forgotten on the table. We're a family. We stay together. The connecting rooms worked perfectly last year. They worked perfectly for times, I countered. They didn't work for me. Last year wasn't a vacation for me, Chloe. It was a week-long babysitting gig that I paid for with my sanity. Oh, here we go, she scoffed, rolling her eyes so hard I'm surprised they didn't fall out. You're being so dramatic. My boys love you. They love spending time with their uncle. I love them too. But I also love sleeping past 6 a.m. and reading a book without having juice spilled on it. I'm going to the beach to have a vacation, my own vacation. My mother finally found her voice. Logan, this is ridiculous. You're deliberately trying to cause problems. Your sister needs your help. Then she and Mark can help each other, I said. Or they can hire a babysitter. My services are no longer available. Chloe's face turned a blotchy, furious red. This wasn't just an inconvenience for her. It was an act of rebellion. The family peon was refusing to do his job. So, that's it, she shrieked, her voice rising. You're just going to abandon me with my own children. You're going to be off in your own fancy room while I'm stuck dealing with everything. You're ruining this entire trip. Chloe, calm down, my dad said, though he was looking at me. Logan, this isn't the way. We're a family. That's right, I said, pushing my chair back and standing up. And this family is about to learn that I'm a part of it, not just the staff. The room is booked. It's non-refundable. I'll see you all there. I walked out, leaving a stunned, simmering silence behind me. My phone started buzzing before I even got to my car. A text from my mom times, "You are being incredibly selfish. I am so disappointed in you." Asterisked. Then my dad times, "Call your sister. You need to apologize and fix this." Asterisk. Then a novel from Chloe. A furious, rambling wall of text about how I was an ungrateful, lazy leech who never did anything for anyone, and how dare I do this to her. I ignored them all. I drove home, turned my phone on silent, and for the first time in a long time felt a flicker of control. They'd get over it. They had to. For the next 2 days, the barrage was relentless. A constant stream of guilt trips, demands, and passive-aggressive comments in the family group chat. I held firm. I replied to my parents with a simple, "My decision is final," and I didn't reply to Chloe at all. I felt isolated, like I was the crazy one. Was I selfish? Was I ruining the family vacation? The doubt started to creep in. So I did what any sane person in the 21st century does when they feel like they're losing their mind. I went to the internet for a second opinion. I wrote it all out anonymously on Reddit. The whole story. Last year's nightmare vacation, the golden child sister, the enabling parents, the expectation that I, the 2-3-year-old single guy, should sacrifice my time and money so my sister could have a subsidized nanny. I hit post and walked away, not knowing what to expect. An hour later, I had 100 comments. Then 500. Then 1,000. they were all on my side. NTA, not the asshole, was everywhere. People shared their own stories. The validation was overwhelming, a tidal wave of support that washed away all my self-doubt. I wasn't selfish. I was right. My boundary was reasonable. I fell asleep that night feeling vindicated, empowered even. I woke up the next morning to an email notification. Then a text. Then my phone started ringing. It was a number from work, so I answered expecting it to be about a project. Logan? The voice on the other end was ice cold. It was Chloe. How did you get this number? I asked, sitting bolt upright in bed. That doesn't matter, she hissed. Her voice was trembling with a rage that felt volcanic. What matters is the post. I saw it, Logan. My friend sent it to me. Everyone is sending it to me. You posted our private family business all over the internet for strangers to see. My blood ran cold. You have 5 minutes to take it down, she seethed. 5 minutes, or I swear to God you will regret this for the rest of your life. I held the phone away from my ear, her voice a tinny shriek of pure venom. My thumb shaking slightly found the record button on my screen. A small red dot appeared. Game on. You're threatening me, I asked, keeping my voice calm. It was a struggle. Take it down, she repeated each word, a clipped, violent command. You made me a laughingstock. You made our family look like a joke. Our family's been treating me like a joke for years, Chloe. I just wrote down the punchline. People seem to agree it's not very funny. A strangled sound came down the line, a mix of a sob and a scream. You think a bunch of pathetic internet strangers matter more than your own sister, more than your nephews? This isn't about them, it's about you. It's always been about you, she shrieked, the victim act in full swing. Poor Logan, forced to spend a week at the beach. Poor Logan, who has to hang out with his own family. You know what your problem is. You have no life, you live at home, you have no girlfriend, no real commitments. Your only job is to be there for family. That's what your time's for, asterisk. There it was. The quiet part screamed out loud. I wasn't a brother. I was a utility. A resource to be used. The recording icon on my screen felt like the most powerful weapon I'd ever owned. Take it down, Logan. Now. No, I said simply. The line went dead. An hour later, my parents' car pulled into my driveway. I was waiting for them. They marched to my front door like a two-person firing squad, my mom's face a mask of disappointment, my dad set in grim resolve. This has gone too far, my mom began the second I opened the door, not even waiting to come inside. Your sister's a complete wreck. You posted our private business online for the world to tear apart. You need to delete that post and you need to call her and apologize. I'm not doing either of those things, I said, stepping aside to let them in. Don't be stubborn, my dad said, his voice low and warning. You made your point. Now it's time to be the bigger person and smooth things over. Be the bigger person, I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. That's just code for let Chloe win so we can all pretend this didn't happen. That's not happening this time. She's your sister, my mom cried, her hands flying up in exasperation. She says you're twisting things, that you're making her out to be some kind of monster. Is she? I asked quietly. I pulled my phone from my pocket. I'm glad you're both here. I want you to hear something. I found the recording and hit play. The air in my small living room grew thick and still as Chloe's voice, raw and unfiltered, filled the space. I watched my parents' faces. I saw the initial anger at me, the assumption that I had somehow provoked her slowly curdle into something else. When the line times, you have no life. That's what your 4 times echoed in the quiet room. My mom flinched as if she'd been slapped. My dad just stared at the floor, his jaw working silently. The recording ended. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. My dad finally looked at me, his eyes filled with a dawning horror. She said that to you? I just nodded. My mom sank onto the arm of my sofa, her face pale. I didn't know she felt that way. I thought she just needed a little help. You didn't know because you never listened, I said, the accusation soft but sharp. You only ever listened to her. Before anyone could say another word, my phone buzzed. It was Mark, my brother-in-law. I almost ignored it, but a gut feeling told me to answer. I put it on speaker. Logan, thank God you answered. I am so sorry. His voice was ragged. Mark, what's going on? I saw the Reddit post, he said, and I heard him take a deep, shaky breath. A buddy from work sent it to me, didn't know it was about us. At first I was furious at you. But then, something you wrote stuck out. The part about being the unpaid help. My parents were now staring at the phone like it was a cobra. Logan, Mark continued, his voice dropping. For the last year, since that first beach trip, I've been giving Chloe $300 a month in cash. I told her it was for you. For babysitting, for helping out, for, being an awesome uncle. She told me she was giving it to you. The blood drained from my mother's face. My dad closed his eyes. I felt a cold, hard knot form in my stomach. It wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. It was the sheer breathtaking audacity of the lie. She wasn't just using me. She was profiting off me. She kept it, didn't she? Mark asked, his voice dead. I never saw a dime, Mark, I said. A string of curses exploded from the phone. I'm going to the bank. I'm transferring you every cent she took, plus interest. I can't believe this. I am so sorry, man. We'll be over tonight. We are going to fix this. He hung up. My parents looked broken. The carefully constructed image of their perfect daughter, their golden child, had been sledgehammered into dust in the space of 10 minutes. Chloe and Mark arrived that evening. She wouldn't look at me. Her eyes were puffy and red, but not from sadness. From humiliation. Mark handed me a check, his face a mixture of shame and anger. Apologize to your brother, he commanded her. Chloe mumbled something at the floor. Look at him and say it, Mark insisted. She finally lifted her head, and the venom was back. I'm sorry, she bit out the words, sounding like poison on her tongue. Then her attention snapped to me. Now, take down the posts. All of them. I leaned back on my couch. No. What? She shrieked. After all this, after Mark paid you back, you have to... I don't have to do anything, I said, looking from her to my parents. Those posts stay up. Consider them my insurance policy. They're a public record of what happens when I'm taken for granted. They're a reminder that this family is going to have boundaries now, whether you like it or not. I held her gaze. You want them down, fine. Let's have a year of you treating me like a brother instead of an employee. Let's see you respect my time and my life. Let's have a family vacation where we all act like an actual family. You prove to me that things have changed, and maybe I'll consider it. Humiliation burned in her eyes. She had no power here. The money was gone, the lies were exposed, and her leverage was ash. For the first time in my entire life, I had all the cards. She stormed out. Mark gave me one last apologetic look before following her. My parents just sat there. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. So, the vacation is still on. Yeah, I said, a small, genuine smile touching my lips for the first time all day. The vacation is on. I'll see you there. I'll be in my own room.
Story 4.
For 2 years, the wall separating my townhouse from theirs might as well have been made of paper. The soundtrack to my life was their marriage imploding in real time. I didn't know their favorite colors or their political leanings, but I knew Jack was a useless, pathetic excuse for a man and Jill was a dramatic, blood-sucking harpy. Their words, not mine. I just had the misfortune of a front row seat. I'm Nancy. My husband Mark and I moved into this neat little row of suburban homes, thinking we'd found a quiet slice of peace. We were wrong. Next door lived Jack and Jill. Yes, really. The irony wasn't lost on me. Their fights were legendary. They weren't quiet, simmering arguments. They were full-blown, window-rattling spectacles. It always followed the same script. The shouting would start usually around 8 p.m., escalating until Jill's voice hit a piercing shriek. Then came the finale, the slam of the front door and the sound of Jack's car peeling out of the driveway. Jill would then usually throw something against our shared wall for good measure. A plate, a shoe, maybe a small appliance. It was hard to tell. Mark would just shake his head. Someone should call someone, he'd mutter into his book, and say what I'd reply. My neighbors are loud and hate each other. That's not a crime. We weren't friends. We were neighbors, in the most literal sense of the word. We shared a wall and a strained, silent understanding that we would never acknowledge the chaos we both knew was happening. A polite nod while getting the mail was the extent of our relationship. I didn't want to be involved. Jill had a razor-wire personality. You could feel the hostility radiating off her, even from 10 feet away. Then came the last fight. It was different. The volume was the same, but the finality in her voice was new. Get out, she screamed, her voice cracking. I swear to God, Jack, if you are still here in the morning, I will burn all your things on the lawn. The door slammed harder than ever. The car engine roared to life, and then faded into the distance. But this time there was no crashing sound against the wall. There was just silence. A heavy, unnerving quiet that felt louder than the shouting. The next morning, I was watering the petunias on my porch when I saw him. Jack was loading 2 enormous suitcases into the back of a waiting airport taxi. He wasn't frantic or angry. He looked hollowed out, defeated but calm. He moved with the slow, deliberate pace of a man who had made a decision and wasn't looking back. He saw me watching. He didn't smile. He just gave me a single tired nod. It was a nod that said, "Times, I'm done. It's over. You won't be hearing us anymore." Asterisk. He slid into the back of the cab and it pulled away from the curb, turning the corner and disappearing. I never saw him again. Later, through the neighborhood grapevine, I heard he'd taken a job transfer to Singapore. He didn't just leave the house. He left the continent. The silence that followed was glorious. For 3 days, my home was my own. No screaming, no slamming, no late-night drama. Mark and I actually sat on our back patio and had a conversation without being interrupted by a torrent of abuse from next door. It was bliss. The bliss ended on a Thursday morning. I was heading out to my car, juggling my laptop bag and a travel mug of coffee when my front door was practically blocked. It was Jill. She looked like she'd been dragged through a hedge backward and then set on fire. Her hair was a matted mess, her eyes were puffy and bloodshot, and she was wearing a stained bathrobe that looked like it had seen better days. A decade ago. "Nancy," she said, her voice a raw croak. "Thank God, I need you." I froze my keys halfway to the car door lock. This was new. In 2 years, she had never spoken more than 3 consecutive words to me. "Jill, is everything okay?" I asked a stupid, reflexive question. Of course, nothing was okay. No, it's not okay, she snapped, her voice already rising with that familiar frantic edge. He's gone. He actually did it. Jack is gone. She gestured vaguely toward the sky as if he'd ascended into the heavens instead of catching a flight to Asia. He drained the joint account and left me with the kids. And the mortgage. I stood there unsure of what to say. I'm sorry to hear that. She waved a dismissive hand, cutting through my pathetic attempt at sympathy. Yeah, well, sorry doesn't help me. I have a problem. A big one. She didn't wait for an invitation. She just launched into it, pacing back and forth on my small patch of lawn like a caged animal. My shift at the hospital starts at 6 a.m., she said, stabbing a finger in the air for emphasis. Which means I have to be out of the house by 5:30 latest. The kids Aiden and Chloe, they can't be left alone. He always did the morning routine because his job was flexible. Now he's gone, and I have no one. My mother lives in Florida, his parents hate me, the feeling's mutual. And I don't have any friends around here. I could see why. I just nodded, my brain screaming at me to make an excuse to get in my car and drive away. But I was trapped, pinned by the sheer force of her desperation. So she said finally, stopping her pacing to stand directly in front of me, her bloodshot eyes boring into mine. Here's what needs to happen. My eyebrows shot up. Asterisk. What needs to happen times. Not I was hoping you could help. Or is there any chance you could? No, this was a directive. A battle plan. I'll bring them over to you at 5 a.m, she stated, as if we'd already discussed and agreed to this. You can give them breakfast. Cereal is fine. Aiden likes the sugary kind. Chloe is picky. Then you'll need to drive Aiden to elementary school. Bell rings at 8. Chloe's daycare is the other direction you'll have to drop her off after. It opens at 7:30. I opened my mouth to speak, but she held up a hand and kept going, a runaway train of demands. Pickup is at 3 for Aiden and 5 for Chloe. You can bring them back here, get Aiden started on his homework. He's bad at math, so you'll have to sit with him. Then you can make them dinner. Nothing fancy. They like mac and cheese or chicken nuggets. I should be home around 7, maybe 7:30 if traffic is bad. My jaw was now somewhere around my ankles. I was speechless, utterly paralyzed by the audacity of it all. It was so far beyond a normal request that my brain couldn't even process how to refuse. She took a deep breath, not done yet. Oh, and weekends? I'm going to have to pick up extra shifts to make ends meet, so I'll need you to have them on Saturdays, probably Sundays too. Full days, obviously. She finally finished, a small, triumphant smile playing on her lips. She looked at me, her head tilted as if she had just solved the world's most complex puzzle. As if she'd just handed me a gift, an opportunity, instead of a life sentence of unpaid, round-the-clock servitude for the children of a woman I couldn't stand. So she said, clapping her hands together softly, the sound like a gavel, "Is tomorrow at 5 too soon to start?" I stared at her, the travel mug of coffee, suddenly feeling very heavy in my hand. For a split second, I thought it was a joke. A very, very bad joke delivered by a woman with zero sense of humor. My brain cycled through a dozen responses, from screaming to just turning around and walking back into my house. What came out was a short, sharp bark of laughter. Jill's face, already a roadmap of stress, tightened into a knot of confusion. "What's so funny?" "You," I said, unable to stop a second laugh from escaping. "You're funny. Hilarious, actually." Her eyes narrowed. "I'm not joking, Nancy. I'm in a crisis." "No, you're not in a crisis," I corrected her, my voice dropping the humor and picking up a steely edge. "You're in a situation of your own making, and you've just presented me with a full-time job description. So let's talk business. What are you paying?" Jill blinked, genuinely stunned. "Paying," she repeated, as if I just asked her to explain quantum physics in Greek. "Yes. Pay." Money. Compensation, I clarified, ticking the words off on my fingers. You've outlined a job that's roughly 90 hours a week. It includes childcare, a chauffeur service, tutoring, and a personal chef for 2 children. That's a professional nanny, a driver, and a cook all rolled into one. So what's the salary? I assume it's competitive given the outrageous hours. She scoffed, a nasty, incredulous sound that scraped at my last nerve. Hey you, don't be ridiculous. I can't afford that. I told you, I have no friends and no one else to ask. You're my neighbor. You're supposed to times help, asterisk. The sheer unadulterated entitlement of that statement was breathtaking. It was like she thought proximity came with a contractual obligation to solve her life problems. All my neighborly politeness evaporated. Listen to me very carefully, Jill, I said, my voice low and dangerously calm. Absolutely not. The answer isn't just no, it's hell no. It's are you out of your ever-loving mind? No. I am not your friend. I am not your family. I am certainly not your unpaid servant. I am the woman who has had to listen to you scream at your husband for 2 years straight. The fact that you have no one else to turn to is a direct result of how you treat people. It is not my problem to solve. I took a step toward my car, finally breaking the invisible wall of her desperation that had held me captive. Her face contorted with rage. You selfish bitch, she shrieked, finding her familiar volume. My kids are going to suffer because of you. No, I said, turning the key in my car door lock. Your kids are suffering because their father fled to another continent to get away from you. Think about that. I didn't wait for a reply. I slid into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and locked it. Jill stood on my lawn, her mouth opening and closing like a fish, her face a mask of purple fury. I started the engine, backed out of my driveway without a second glance, and drove away, my heart pounding with a mixture of adrenaline and righteous anger. That evening, I was chopping onions with probably a little more force than necessary when I told Mark the whole story. I recounted her list of demands, her schedule, her expectation, that it would all be for the low, low price of nothing. He listened as fork suspended over his plate of pasta, his expression growing more astonished with every detail. When I finished with my final line about Jack fleeing the continent, he finally spoke. Wow, he breathed out, setting his fork down. That is completely insane. Right, I said, relieved. I thought I was losing my mind. He was quiet for a long moment, swirling the noodles on his plate. But Nan, he started slowly, and I could already hear the but I didn't want to hear. Don't you think you were a little harsh? I stopped chopping, the knife still in my hand. Harsh Mark, she asked me to dedicate my entire life to her children for free. I know, the request was ridiculous, he conceded, holding up a hand. But calling her out like that, saying it was her fault Jack left. I don't know, the woman is clearly drowning. And what about Aiden and Chloe? They're just little kids caught in the middle. Maybe we should offer to at least help sometimes. For the kids' sake. I put the knife down with a loud clatter and turned to face him fully. Are you serious, Mark? You've heard her. You've heard them. She is a nasty, vitriolic person. Do you honestly believe for 1 second that helping sometimes would stay? Sometimes it would be an inch that she would take for a marathon? She would never, ever reciprocate. If our positions were reversed, she'd be selling tickets to watch our house burn. That's a bit of an exaggeration, he muttered. Is it? I challenged. We've lived next to her for 2 years. Have you ever seen her be kind to anyone? To Jack, to the mailman, to her own children when they're playing too loud? No. She's a black hole of negativity. You want to help for the kids' sake. The best thing for those kids would be if she learned that her actions have consequences. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I just feel bad for them. I feel bad for them too, I said, my voice softening slightly. but my setting myself on fire is not going to keep them warm. It'll just get me burned. Mark, her entire life is imploding because of who she is. Her husband didn't just move across town, he moved across the Times, planet Asterisk. That's not a separation, that's an evacuation. She has no friends because she's incapable of friendship. People aren't things to be used when you're in a jam. She's learning that the hard way, and I refuse to be her lesson plan. He didn't argue further. He just nodded and quietly went back to eating his pasta. The conflict wasn't resolved, but the debate was over. I had drawn my line in the sand, and I wasn't budging. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, I glanced out the window. The lights were on next door. Through her sheer curtains, I could see Jill's silhouette as she paced back and forth in her living room, a phone pressed to her ear. She was gesticulating wildly, her body language radiating the same frantic, angry energy I'd seen on my lawn that morning. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. I knew the sound of her desperation. It was the same sound that had driven her husband 8,000 miles away and left her utterly, completely alone. And for the first time in 2 years, the noise from next door didn't bother me at all.
Story 5.
The wine was good, a 12-year-old Cabernet to match our 12-year anniversary. The kids, Leo and Mia, were actually behaving coloring quietly at the table while Sarah and I finished our steak. I raised my glass. To 12 years, I said, trying to catch her eye. And to at least 12 more. She gave me a thin smile and clinked her glass against mine. To 12 years. She didn't add the second part. I told myself I was imagining the distance in her eyes. It had been there for months, a subtle fog I couldn't quite navigate. I figured it was stress. Her new clothing boutique was finally taking off, but the hours were long. Later, after the kids were in bed and the dishwasher was humming, I found Leo's iPad on the kitchen counter. A little green bubble with a 1-inch, it was floating over the messages icon. I almost ignored it, but I figured it was probably a message from his cousin he'd forgotten to answer. I tapped it open. The message wasn't from his cousin. It was at the top of the list, a synced iMessage from Sarah's phone. The contact name was Mark Work. The text read, "Times I can't stop thinking about last night. The way you looked at me. God, I need you again. Soon. Asterisk." My blood went cold. My hands started to shake. I scrolled up. There were dozens of them. Photos I didn't recognize. Sarah smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years, sitting across a table from some guy. More texts. Flirtatious, then explicit. My stomach twisted into a knot of ice and acid. I scrolled to the bottom to the very first message. The date stamp was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. I walked upstairs, the iPad feeling like a lead weight in my hand. Sarah was in bed, scrolling on her phone, bathed in that sterile blue light. She didn't look up when I came in. I didn't say anything. I just held out the iPad. She glanced at the screen, then at my face. There was no panic in her eyes, no shock. Just a flat, weary recognition. "Oh," she said, as if I just pointed out a spot on the carpet. That, my voice was a choked whisper. "Sarah, what is this?" She finally put her phone down and looked at me. No tears, no shame. Just a chilling sort of calm. "I'm seeing someone, Larry." Just like that. A 12-year marriage, 2 kids, a whole life detonated by 4 simple words. My first thought, the only one that broke through the static in my head, was for the kids. "We can fix this," I said, the words feeling stupid and hollow as they came out. "We can go to therapy. We can work on it. For Leo and Mia." She gave a little shrug. "If you want to." Therapy was a joke. I went in hoping to find a bridge back to my wife. She went in with a flamethrower. The therapist, a woman with kind eyes and a professional poker face, would ask a gentle probing question, and Sarah would unload. "I've just been so unhappy," she said in our first session, twisting the ring I gave her. "Larry's always been so Controlling. I stared at her. Controlling, I refinanced the house to fund your boutique. I do drop-offs, pickups, 90% of the cooking. When have I ever controlled you? See, she said, turning to the therapist. He gets defensive. He can't just listen. He has to make it about everything he's done times for me, like I owe him something. It was insane. It was like watching someone describe a movie I'd never seen. The next week it got worse. I think the problem is I finally met my soulmate, she announced, as if she were talking about the weather. The therapist blinked. Your soulmate? Mark, she said, a dreamy look on her face. He just gets me. For the first time, I feel like I can be my actual self. I haven't been my true self in over a decade. You've known him for a month, Sarah, I said, my voice rising. A month. We have a life. We have children. This isn't about the kids, Larry, she said, her voice dripping with condescending pity. This is about my happiness. Don't you want me to be happy? I started noticing how her best friend Chloe was always around. Chloe, who had been divorced twice and seemed to thrive on drama. She'd whisper with Sarah in the kitchen while I was putting the kids to bed. I'd walk in and they'd go silent, shooting me identical looks of disdain. I heard snippets. You deserve this. Don't let him guilt you. It's your time now. Chloe was the gasoline on the fire. The blame shifting was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Our happy memories were retroactively tainted. A family vacation to the beach, I was faking it for the kids. I felt so trapped. The day I brought her lunch at her shop, that was you checking up on me. You never trusted me. She was rewriting 12 years of history, recasting me as the villain in a story where I thought I was the husband. It came to a head after our 4th therapy session. It had been another hour of her painting me as a manipulative monster. I drove home in a daze, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. I was trying to hold on, trying to find some piece of the woman I married in the cold stranger sitting next to me. That night after the kids were asleep, I found her in the living room packing a small bag. Where are you going? I asked, my heart pounding. To Chloe, she said, not looking at me. I need some space. Sarah, please, I begged. My pride was gone. I was just a man watching his world crumble. Don't do this. Think about our family. Think about Leo and Mia. Think about everything we built. She finally stopped packing. She turned around slowly, and the look on her face was one I'll never forget. It wasn't anger or sadness. It was empty. A total terrifying void. You know, Larry, she said, her voice quiet and steady. My only regret is that I didn't do this sooner. The mediation room was beige and soulless, just like the process itself. We sat at opposite ends of a polished table that felt a mile long. Lawyers on either side, a neutral mediator at the head. Sarah wouldn't look at me. She just stared at a spot on the wall, her jaw set. Chloe had driven her, of course. I could practically feel the toxic encouragement radiating from the waiting room. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Ellen, had prepped me for a war. She'll fight for the house, the business, and she'll use the kids as leverage. Be ready for it. The mediator cleared his throat. We'll start with the most important issue, the children. Mr. Davis, your proposal is for an 80/20 timeshare in your favor. That's correct, I said, my voice steady. I believe it's in Leo and Mia's best interest to have stability. Sarah's lawyer, a smug guy in a suit too tight for his frame, gave a thin smile. My client is a devoted mother. He was cut off. By Sarah? Just give it to him, she said, her voice flat. Everyone at the table stopped. Even her own lawyer looked surprised. Sarah, he prompted. She finally turned her head, but she looked at the mediator, not me. He can have them 80% of the time, weekends, holidays, whatever. I agree. I felt the air leave my lungs. It wasn't relief. It was a cold, sickening shock. There was no fight, no tears, no feigned concern for the kids she claimed to be so unhappy without. It was a business transaction. Her lawyer recovered quickly. In light of my client's generous concession regarding the children, he said, "The word generous? Landing like a punch to my gut, we expect equal generosity regarding the assets. Specifically, a full buyout of her share of the marital home and a cash settlement equivalent to 70% of the boutique's current valuation." And there it was. The price tag. She wasn't giving me the kids, she was selling them. Selling 12 years of bedtimes, stories, scraped knees, and school plays for a bigger check. She was funding her new life with Mark on the bones of her old one. I looked at her, then really looked at her, and the last shred of the woman I married was gone. In her place was a stranger. A cold, calculating stranger who saw her own children as a bargaining chip. Ellen leaned over. "Larry, this is unprecedented. This is everything we wanted on the custody front." I just nodded, my throat too tight to speak. "We accept," Ellen said. It was over in 2 hours. She traded our family for her fantasy. As we were packing up our briefcases, she finally looked at me. There was no remorse in her eyes. Only a flicker of something like triumph. "I hope you're happy, Sarah," I said, the words tasting like ash. "I will be," she replied, and walked out of the room without looking back. 4 years can feel like a lifetime or no time at all. In that time, the kids and I found our rhythm. Our house, once heavy with tension, was now filled with Lego explosions, movie nights, and the smell of slightly burnt pizza. I became an expert at French braids for Mia, and at helping Leo with his ridiculously complex Minecraft worlds. We were a team. A bruised, battered, but resilient team. Their weekends with Sarah were a different story. They'd come home quiet and withdrawn. It took me a while to figure out why. One Sunday night, Mia, now 10, was picking at her dinner. "What's wrong, sweetie?" I asked. She pushed a piece of chicken around her plate. "Mommy cried today." My stomach tightened. Oh, why was she sad? "She said it's hard living in her small apartment because you took the big house and all her money," Mia mumbled, not meeting my eyes. "She said you wanted to punish her for being happy." There it was. The poison. A slow, steady drip of it every other weekend. I took a deep breath, pushing down the white-hot rage that wanted to erupt. Yelling wouldn't help. Bad-mouthing their mother would only make me the same as her. "Mia, look at me," I said gently. She lifted her head, her eyes full of confusion. "Grown-up problems are complicated. It's not your job to worry about them. Your mom and I both made choices. The most important thing for you to know is that this is your home. You are safe here, you are loved, and you will always have everything you need." "Okay." She nodded, but the seed was planted. I knew I'd be weeding that particular garden for years to come. The final confirmation of her choices came not from the kids, but from an old friend who called me out of the blue. "Larry, hey man. Listen, this is weird, but I thought you should know." He started hesitantly. "I saw Sarah's baby announcement on Chloe's Instagram." The words hit me, but they didn't hurt. They were just information. "Baby, I didn't know she was pregnant." "Yeah, little girl," he said. The weird thing is, well, Mark was there. In the picture. And his wife, actual Times wife, just posted a family photo from a ski trip last week. With their kids. I don't get it, man. Is he living a double life or something? Of course he was. Mark never left his wife. He was never going to. Sarah hadn't found a soulmate. She'd found a parasite. And she'd mistaken the fever for passion. She'd had his baby while he was still married to and living with someone else. The next time she dropped off the kids, she told me her big news. Mark and I are moving, she announced, avoiding my gaze as Leo and Mia ran inside. To Austin. His company is opening an office there. It's a fresh start for us. Us. The baby was in a car seat in the back. Her new life. He's moving to Austin, I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Is his wife going with him? The color drained from her face. For the first time in 4 years, I saw a genuine crack in her armor of self-righteousness. She didn't have a comeback. She didn't have a rewritten history for that. That's none of your business, she finally spat and got back in her car. She was running. Chasing a fantasy to another state, abandoning her first 2 children for a man who would never fully be hers. She hadn't just left our marriage, she had left her entire life. And was now a supporting character in someone else's. I watched her drive away, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just a profound, quiet pity. My revenge wasn't some grand act. I didn't have to do a thing. My revenge was the happy, stable home I had built from the wreckage. It was Leo's laughter from the living room and Mia asking if we could bake cookies. My revenge was that I had won. I'd won my kids, my peace, and my life, while she was left with the consequences. She had chosen her path, and I was finally truly free of it.
Story 6.
The ceiling fan wobbled. 1, 2, 3 blades blurring into a wobbly circle of white. If I focused on it long enough, the slight nausea churning in my gut would almost feel like motion sickness. Almost normal. A knock on my bedroom door made me jump. Jackson, are you just going to lie in there all day? It was my mom. Her voice was already tight, stretched thin like a rubber band about to snap. It was only 11 a.m. I'm up, I called out, my own voice sounding rough. I swung my legs over the side of the bed and the room tilted violently. I squeezed my eyes shut, gripping the edge of the mattress until the spinning slowed to a gentle sway. This was my life now. A constant low-grade vertigo that doctors shrugged at. Just tired, they'd say. My parents heard lazy. I grabbed my laptop from the floor, flipping it open. The screen glowed with the ghosts of my failures. Indeed.com. LinkedIn. ZipRecruiter. 57 applications sent. 57 little digital missiles launched into the void. I had a spreadsheet to track them. Most rows were blank. 4 had a red or rejected typed in. The rest were just nothing. Crickets. My bedroom door creaked open. Mom stood there, arms crossed, holding a laundry basket against her hip like a shield. I saw the trash cans are still by the garage, she said. Not a question. Sorry, I was going to get them. I just woke up and felt a little... Don't she cut me off? Don't start with a dizzy thing, Jackson. I'm not in the mood. I'm not making it up, I said, my voice rising. My heart started doing its usual trip hammer thing against my ribs. My head is pounding. Your head is pounding because you sleep until noon and stare at a screen all day, she said, her eyes scanning the clutter of my room. You're 18. I told you if you don't have a job by this month, you start paying rent. Well, it's this month. $300. Due on the 1st. I just stared at her. With what money? I'm trying. You see me on here every single day. I see you on there, she corrected. I don't see any results. A job at McDonald's isn't beneath you? A job stocking shelves isn't beneath you? You need to get over yourself and just do something. She left, pulling the door shut behind her with a little too much force. The click of the latch echoed in the silent room. Asterisk. $300. Asterisk. She might as well have asked for $1 million. I had $43 to my name, saved for my last birthday. My hands were shaking. I scrolled through my contacts and hesitated over my dad's name. Calling him was always a gamble. Since the divorce, and especially since he married Carol, our conversations had become minefields. But desperation was a powerful motivator. He answered on the third ring. "What's up?" "Hey, Dad. You got a minute?" "Making one. Carol and I are heading out to look at patio furniture." "What do you need?" The impatience was already there. "It's about Mom." I started trying to keep my voice steady. "She's saying I have to pay rent now, and I don't have it. I'm looking for jobs. I swear I've put in applications everywhere." "Your mother told me she was going to do that," he said, his tone flat. "It's about time, Jackson. You're an adult. You can't just live off her forever." In the background, I heard Carol's muffled voice. "Not our problem. It's not that I want to." I said, my throat tightening. "I told you I haven't been feeling well. It's hard to even get out of bed some days. I think I need to see another doctor." A heavy sigh crackled through the phone. "We've been through this. The doctor said you're fine. You have anxiety. You know what helps with anxiety? A routine, a purpose, a job. So that's it, you're just siding with her. This isn't about sides. This is about you growing up. Your mother and I are on the same page for once. You need a fire lit under you." A fire lit under me? I couldn't believe it. "I feel like crap all the time, and you think the problem is that I'm not motivated enough." "Watch your tone," he said sharply. "I've got to go. Get a job, Jackson. It's that simple." He hung up. I threw the phone onto my comforter. It bounced once and lay still. Asterisk. On the same page. Asterisk. The two people who were supposed to be in my corner had circled the wagons, and I was on the outside. The rest of the afternoon was a blur of anxiety. I filled out 3 more applications, the words on the screen swimming before my eyes. My head throbbed in time with my pulse. I skipped lunch. The thought of facing my mom in the kitchen was worse than the hunger. Around 5, I heard her car pull away. A brief reprieve. I walked out into the living room, blinking in the bright light. The house was quiet. A note was on the counter. Asterisk went to the store. Be back in an hour. The trash better? Be taken in. Asterisk. I grabbed my keys. My old '98 Camry was a piece of junk, but it was mine. I just needed to drive. Clear my head. I got in the car, the cracked leather seats hot from the sun. I put the key in the ignition, turned it, and was met with a series of pathetic clicks. Dead battery. Of course. I slumped back against the headrest, pressing the heels of my hands into my eyes. Everything was closing in. No job, no money, no energy, no escape. When Mom got home, the first thing she saw was me sitting at the kitchen table, head in my hands. The second thing she saw through the window were the trash cans still sitting defiantly at the curb. She dropped the grocery bags on the floor. Oranges and a carton of milk tumbled out and rolled across the linoleum. "You have got to be kidding me," she said, her voice dangerously low. "The car won't start," I said, looking up at her. I was going to try and jump it. "Oh, the car won't start," she mimicked, her voice dripping with scorn. "Is that the excuse of the day? Yesterday it was a headache. The day before you were dizzy." "I am so sick of the excuses, Jackson. It's one thing. One thing I asked you to do." "I'm not making excuses," I shot back, standing up. "My car is dead. My body feels like it's dead. I am trying." "No, you're not," she screamed, her face turning red. "You're not trying. You're waiting. You're waiting for someone to rescue you. For me to just let it go. For your father to swoop in and feel sorry for you. Well, I'm done waiting." She pulled out her phone, her thumb jabbing at the screen. "I just talked to your father. We're in agreement." My stomach dropped. Agreement about what? She looked up from her phone, her eyes cold and empty of anything I recognized. You have 1 hour to pack a bag, she said. Get whatever you can fit in your car and get out. I stared, my mouth hanging open. What? You can't be serious. Where am I supposed to go? My car doesn't even start. That sounds like a you problem, she said, turning her back on me to pick up the spilled milk. Your father's house isn't an option. He's done too. Panic, cold and sharp, seized my lungs. I fumbled for my own phone, my fingers like clumsy sausages. I scrolled to Dad's contact and typed, my hands trembling so bad I could barely hit the letters. Asterisk. Mom is kicking me out. Right now. She said I can't come to your place. Is this for real? Asterisk. I hit send. The 3 little dots appeared instantly, taunting me. I held my breath, watching, praying. A moment later, a single devastating text bubble popped up on my screen. The bubble solidified into a single brutal word. Yes. My phone slipped from my sweaty hand and clattered onto the linoleum. The sound was small, insignificant, in the suddenly cavernous kitchen. One word. He didn't even have the decency to type out a full sentence. My mom didn't look at me. She just kept putting her groceries away, her movements stiff and methodical. Cereal box. Can of beans. Carton of eggs. Life for her was continuing as normal. Your hour started when I got home, she said to the inside of the refrigerator. My legs felt like they were filled with wet cement. I managed to stumble back to my room. What do you pack when you're being exiled? I grabbed a duffel bag from the back of my closet and started stuffing it with clothes. T-shirts, jeans, socks. My laptop. Its charger. The portable battery jumper my dad had given me for my 18th birthday. For emergencies, he'd said with a self-satisfied smile, as if he'd just imparted some great fatherly wisdom. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. I zipped the bag, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard the dizziness flared up again. I leaned against my desk, breathing through my nose, focusing on the wobbly ceiling fan one last time. 45 minutes later, I was standing by my car duffel bag slung over my shoulder. Mom stood on the porch, arms crossed, watching. She didn't offer to help. She didn't say goodbye. She just watched her face, a blank mask, as I popped the hood and hooked up the jumper cables. The engine sputtered, caught, and then roared to life with a rattling cough. The sound was both a relief and a death sentence. Now I had no excuse to stay. I threw my bag in the passenger seat and got behind the wheel, not looking at her. I put the car in reverse, my foot trembling on the gas pedal. As I backed out of the driveway, I'd learned to ride a bike in the driveway I'd parked in every day for 2 years. I glanced in the rearview mirror. She was already gone. The front door was shut. The first night, I parked in the back corner of a 2-4-hour Walmart lot. I pushed the passenger seat back as far as it would go and tried to sleep, but the weird orange glow of the parking lot lights bled through my eyelids. Every passing car sounded like a threat. My stomach growled, a hollow, aching protest. I had $38 left after putting $5 of gas in the tank. I was homeless. The word echoed in the cramped, stale air of the car. Homeless. 2 days passed in a miserable haze. I used the Walmart bathroom to wash my face. I bought a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter. I spent hours at the public library using their Wi-Fi to fill out more applications until the words blurred together. I got one email back, "Thank you for your interest, but we've decided to move forward with other candidates." The rejection felt personal now, another nail in my coffin. On the third day my phone buzzed. It was a group text from my mom. My dad and grandma were in the chat. Asterisk. Don't forget, Father's Day lunch is at Grandma's house on Sunday, 1 p.m. See you there, asterisk. I stared at the message. It was so completely absurdly normal. It was like she hadn't thrown me out on the street 3 days ago. Like I wasn't currently reading her text from a library parking lot because it was the only place I could get a signal and charge my phone. A laugh escaped my lips, a harsh, dry sound. I typed back my thumbs, moving with a cold fury. Asterisk. I'm not coming. Asterisk. My dad replied almost instantly. Asterisk. Don't be like that, Jackson. Asterisk. Asterisk. Like what times I typed. Asterisk. Homeless. I don't have enough gas to get to Grandma's. It's over 30 miles away. Asterisk. My grandma added her outer voice to the chorus. A voice I usually loved, now dripping with a syrupy, manipulative sweetness. Asterisk. Jackson, honey. I made your favorite cherry pie. We're all looking forward to seeing you. Everyone will miss my presence. Asterisk. Asterisk presents times I almost threw the phone. Asterisk. You want me to show up with presents? I'm living in my car. Asterisk. The phone rang. It was my mom. I let it go to voicemail, but she called right back. I knew she wouldn't stop. I finally answered, pressing the phone to my ear. What is your problem? She snapped. No, hello, no preamble. My problem, I said, my voice shaking with a rage I didn't know I had. My problem is that my own mother kicked me out with an hour's notice and now expects me to show up to a family party and pretend everything is fine. We are trying to include you, she said, her voice rising to match mine. We care about you, and this is how you treat us, by throwing a pity party for yourself. Your father is hurt. Hurt, I screamed into the phone, not caring who heard me in the quiet parking lot. He's hurt. Good, I hope he is. You can tell the man you're celebrating the Father of the Year that his son is sleeping in a goddamn Toyota Camry because of him, because of both of you. You are being so dramatic, she spit back. This is exactly why we had to do what we did. You're manipulative and you refuse to take responsibility for yourself. Responsibility, I begged you for help. I told you I was sick. You didn't care. You just wanted me gone. But you still want me to show up for the family photo, don't you? You still want to be able to tell your friends that we all had a lovely Father's Day lunch together. There was a pause on the other end. I heard her take a sharp breath. You're breaking your grandmother's heart, she said, her voice dropping to a low, guilt-laden whisper. That was it. The final play. The last-ditch effort to reel me back in. But the line had already snapped. I saw it all with a blinding, painful clarity. They didn't care about me. They cared about the idea of me, the son who plays his part, the happy family that doesn't exist. My well-being was an inconvenience to their narrative. My suffering was just me being dramatic. No, I said, my voice suddenly calm, steady. You are. All of you. I ended the call. My hands were steady now. I opened the group text, my finger hovering over the screen. Dad had sent another message. Asterisk. Just show up, Jackson. Stop making this a big deal. Asterisk. He still didn't get it. He never would. They wanted me to participate in the charade. They wanted me to pretend that the man who confirmed my eviction with a single word deserved to be celebrated. They wanted me to smile, eat cherry pie, and act like I wasn't counting the change in my cup holder to see if I could afford another gallon of gas. They thought lighting a fire under me would make me grow up. They were right. It did. The fire had burned away every last scrap of obligation I ever felt towards them. I typed out one final message. Asterisk. I owe you nothing. Asterisk. I sent it. Then, one by one, I blocked their numbers. Mom, Dad, Grandma. It was a strange hollow feeling, like amputating a part of myself that had already gone septic. I started the car. The gas needle was hovering just above E. I had enough to get somewhere. For the first time in my life, it wouldn't be toward any of them. I pulled out of the library parking lot and turned left, away from the direction of my grandmother's house. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I wasn't going back. That was my present to them. That was my revenge.
Story 7.
15 years. That's how long we'd been married. 15 years, 2 daughters, a mortgage, and what I thought was a pretty damn good life. Amy and I were the couple our friends looked up to. The ones who still held hands, who still laughed at each other's stupid jokes. We were solid. Unshakable. Or so I thought. It was a Friday night. Another lockdown special, which meant a virtual get-together with our college friends, beamed onto our 6.5-inch smart TV. The girls, Chloe and Maya, had made a brief appearance to wave at their aunties and uncles, before retreating upstairs to their own digital worlds. Now it was just us, the adults, shouting over each other from our respective living rooms. Wine was flowing. Amy, curled up next to me on the couch, was on her 3rd glass of rosé, her cheeks flushed, and her laughter a little too loud. I was nursing a whiskey, enjoying the easy comfort of it all. The whole setup was running off Amy's phone, which she'd connected to the Chromecast. It was easier than trying to get the laptop to play nice with the TV. John, you're quiet tonight. Sarah's face, pixelated and slightly distorted, filled the screen. Just admiring my beautiful wife, I said, slinging an arm around Amy. She leaned into me, her head resting on my shoulder. It was true. Even after all this time, she could still take my breath away. The call dragged on for another hour. By the end, Amy was dead to the world, her soft snores a gentle counterpoint to the boisterous goodbyes. All right, guys, we're out, I announced, giving a final wave. Amy's tapped out. A chorus of goodnights echoed through the speakers before the host finally ended the call. The screen went black for a second, and I reached for the remote to switch to Netflix. But before I could, the screen flickered back to life. It was still mirroring Amy's phone. Her WhatsApp was open. I didn't think anything of it. I was about to disconnect it when a new message popped up at the top of the screen. Asterisk, asterisk, lifeline. You still up, beautiful. Missing you. Asterisk, asterisk. My brow furrowed. Lifeline. I'd never seen that contact before. A new best friend I hadn't heard about. The heart emoji felt intimate. I leaned in closer, my buzz from the whiskey sharpening into a nervous edge. Amy stirred beside me, her phone still lying face up on the couch cushion between us. The screen was unlocked. Another message from Lifeline appeared. Asterisk, asterisk, Lifeline. He must be asleep by now. God, I wish I was there instead of him. Asterisk, asterisk. My blood went cold. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering against my ribs. Asterisk. He times who the hell was times? He times who was this person? To know our evening routine, I looked at the chat list. A dozen conversations with friends, family, her mom group. But there at the top pinned was Lifeline. The last message from Amy's side read, Times, party's still going. He's getting drunk. Wish you were here to rescue me. Asterisk. My stomach turned. Rescue her. From what? From our life? My hand trembled as I picked up the TV remote. My thumb hovered over the directional pad. I didn't want to know. I swear to God, I wanted to turn the TV off and pretend I never saw it. But I couldn't. I pressed the down arrow. The screen scrolled. I started reading. The conversation was a dizzying mix of mundane details and raw, explicit intimacy. They talked about their day, what they had for lunch, and then in the same breath, what they wanted to do to each other. There were pictures. A lot of pictures. Selfies she'd sent from our bathroom, our bed. Places I thought were ours. There were pictures he'd sent back. I kept scrolling. Down, down, down into the abyss of my wife's secret life. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. The dates on the messages blurred together. 2020. 2019. 2018. It just kept going. Then I saw his name. Matt. The world tilted on its axis. Matt. Her childhood friend. The guy I'd known for 15 years. The guy who came over for barbecues, who the girls called Uncle Matt. The guy Amy had always described as her gay best friend. Oh, Matt's not interested in women, she told me years ago, laughing it off when I'd asked if there was anything between them. He's been my rock since we were kids, that's all. He's family. A lazy bum, she'd called him. A lovable screw-up who could never hold down a real job. I'd felt sorry for him. I'd even helped him out with a loan once, which he never paid back. The chats laid it all bare. They mocked my work ethic, my taste in movies, my performance in bed. They dissected every argument Amy and I ever had with Matt, always taking her side, telling her she deserved better. They had pet names. They had a history that predated me by a decade. They had a future they were planning one that didn't include me. My entire marriage, our entire life together, replayed in my mind, but now it was a horror film. Every business trip I took, every late night she'd said she was out with her girlfriends, every time she'd been texting Matt about his problems, it was all a lie. I wasn't her husband. I was the placeholder. The stable, reliable provider. The chump. I scrolled back years. All the way to the beginning of the chat history she'd saved. 15 years. It had been going on for 15 years. Our whole marriage. He was her lifeline because I was her prison. The shock was gone, replaced by a cold, hard rage that settled deep in my bones. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a drunken fling. This was a calculated long-term deception. She hadn't just cheated on me. She had built our entire life on a foundation of lies. Our home, our children. My children. A wave of nausea hit me so hard I had to grip the edge of the couch. Were they even mine? The thought was a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. I looked at Amy, sleeping so peacefully beside me, a slight serene smile on her lips, as if she were having a pleasant dream. The sight of her made my skin crawl. She was a stranger. A monster disguised as the woman I loved. I couldn't wake her. Not like this. Not fueled by whiskey and a rage so pure it felt like it could burn the house down. I needed proof. I needed something concrete, something she couldn't deny or wriggle her way out of. With tears and excuses. My own phone was in my pocket. I pulled it out, my hand steady now with a grim sense of purpose. I aimed the camera at the TV. Click. The first photo captured a screen of her telling him she loved him. That he was her soulmate. Click. The next was a nude she'd sent him just last week, taken while I was in the shower down the hall. Click. 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 I photographed everything. The promises. The explicit details. The way they laughed about me being completely oblivious. Page after page of our life being torn to shreds. Preserved in crystal clear 4K on a 6.5-inch screen. I documented years of betrayal in under 5 minutes. When I was done, I lowered my phone and just sat there in the dark, the TV's glow casting long shadows across the room. I stared at the screen at their intertwined lives displayed for me to see. Beside me, Amy sighed in her sleep and shifted her hand, falling onto my leg. A casual, possessive touch. The touch of a wife. I flinched like I'd been burned. Her eyelids began to flutter. The first thing she saw when her eyes cracked open was the television. A flicker of confusion crossed her face, followed by a tidal wave of pure animal panic. She shot upright, snatching her phone from the cushion. With a frantic swipe, the screen mirroring her betrayal vanished, replaced by the sterile logo of the Chromecast. She turned to me, her face pale, her eyes wide and searching. "Did you?" I just stared at her, the whiskey and the rage, forming a thick sludge in my throat. I couldn't speak. I just gave a slow, deliberate nod. Her breath hitched. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just stared back, cornered. The silence in the room was louder than any argument we'd ever had. "John," she finally whispered, "you're drunk. We'll talk in the morning." She got up and walked out of the room. I listened to her footsteps on the stairs, the click of our bedroom door shutting. Our bedroom. I slept on the couch. The next morning, she came downstairs dressed for a normal Saturday. She poured a coffee, her movements breezy as if nothing had happened. "Morning," she said, her voice bright and utterly false. "About last night. You saw some silly messages. It was just flirting, John. Harmless fun. All my friends do it. It's healthy." Healthy. The word came out like a shard of glass. I stood up from the kitchen table, my own phone in my hand. "You call this healthy?" I turned the screen toward her. The first photo I'd taken was displayed in perfect clarity, her, naked on our bed, with the caption asterisk, "Thinking of you. He's at the grocery store." Asterisk. The color drained from her face. Her coffee cup trembled in her hand. "I read it all, Amy," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. 15 years of healthy flirting. I read about how you pitied me. How you mocked me with him. How you wished every night that he was in our bed instead of me. John, please. The facade crumbled. Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt nothing. Don't. Don't you dare cry. Just tell me why. She finally broke. A raw, ugly sob escaped her. Because I loved him, she screamed, slamming the mug on the counter so hard it cracked. I've always loved him. We were together since high school, don't you get it? Then why marry me? Because he was a lazy bum. The confession was venomous. He had no ambition, no future. I loved him, but I wanted this house. I wanted the kids to have a good life. I wanted security. And you were safe. You were the smart, stable choice. The words hit me harder than a fist. I wasn't her husband. I was her 401k. The girl's I choked out the question I dreaded most clawing its way up my throat. Are they... They're yours, she said instantly, a flicker of something, maybe the only truth of the morning in her eyes. Of course they're yours. I wasn't stupid. I could never risk having his kids. I made sure of it. The calculation in that statement was the final nail in the coffin. We're done, I said. I want a divorce. I gave her a week. 1 week to tell Chloe and Maya the truth. Her truth. You broke this family, I told her, my voice cold and flat. You will be the one to explain why. If you don't, I will. On day 6, she sat them down on the couch. I stood by the doorway, my arms crossed, watching the performance. Girls, she began, her voice dripping with manufactured sadness. Daddy and I need to tell you something. Daddy got a big new job. In another country. He's going to be moving away for a while. I saw the confusion on my daughter's faces. Chloe, my sharp-eyed 12-year-old, narrowed her eyes. What are you talking about? Dad loves his job here. Maya, who was only 9 but saw everything, looked from her mother's tear-streaked face to my stone-cold expression. Are you getting divorced? She asked, her small voice cutting through the bullshit. She looked right at me. Dad, did you cheat on Mom? That was it. The snap. Amy turning me into the villain was a line I wouldn't let her cross. No, Maya. I didn't, I said, stepping into the room. I knelt in front of my daughters, forcing myself to meet their frightened eyes. Your mother has been lying to us. To all of us. For a very long time. She has been seeing someone else. Her friend Matt. The name hung in the air. Uncle Matt. The girls stared at Amy, their expressions shifting from confusion to a dawning, horrified understanding. Amy just sat there, mouth agape, her manipulative story in tatters. Get out your phones, I said to my daughters, my voice shaking with rage. Call Grandma and Grandpa, both sets. Tell them to come over right now. It's a family emergency. An hour later, our living room was a pressure cooker. My parents sat on one side, stiff and anxious. Amy's parents sat on the other, already looking at me with accusatory glares, no doubt fed a preemptive sob story by their daughter. Amy started in with the tears. John is trying to take the girls from me. He's making things up. Am I? I pulled out my phone and connected it to the Chromecast. Let's watch a movie. It's a tragedy about our marriage. I put the photos on the screen. The nudes. The messages mocking me. The plans they'd made. The lazy bum confession. I narrated the worst parts out loud, my voice ringing with a terrible vindicated clarity. I left nothing out. The room was utterly silent, broken only by Amy's strangled sobs and her mother's gasps of horror. When it was over, I turned off the TV. No one looked at me. All eyes were on Amy. Her own father stared at her, his face a mask of disgust. Is this true? She couldn't speak. She just nodded, her body racked with shame. Then Chloe stood up. She walked over to her mother, her young face set like granite. I want you to leave, she said, her voice clear and strong. Just leave our house. Maya stood beside her sister, a silent, unshakable wall. That night, my brother-in-law came and helped Amy pack a bag. She was out of the house before the sun came up. I filed for divorce the next day. She didn't fight me for custody of the girls. She knew she wouldn't win. She only asked for half the value of the house she'd bought with my money. Therapy started for me and the girls a week later. We were rebuilding piece by painful piece. 2 months into the separation, Amy's own sister called me furious. She and her husband had dropped by Amy's sad little apartment unannounced and found her in bed with Matt. The affair wasn't over. It had just gone public. The fallout was biblical. Amy's family, disgusted by her complete lack of remorse, turned their backs on her. Matt's parents, who were wealthy and had been funding his artistic lifestyle for 2 decades, finally cut him off for destroying my family. The last I heard, Amy was working as a cashier at a grocery store. Matt was bagging for her. They had their love, I guess. But they had nothing else. Sometimes late at night, I wonder if it was worth it for them. Then I look at Chloe and Maya sleeping peacefully in their beds, in a home that is finally safe, finally honest, and I know I have everything that ever truly mattered.
Story 8.
The knock on my apartment door wasn't a knock. It was a 3-thump combo, hard and impatient. I knew who it was before I even looked through the peephole. Only Gary knocked like he was trying to break the door down. I swung it open. What's up, man? And then I saw it. His head. Gary, who had this thick, almost ridiculously perfect brown hair, was completely bald. Shiny, freshly shaved, not a hint of stubble. Whoa, I said, leaning against the doorframe. Midlife crisis hit a decade early. He didn't smile. He just stared at me, his eyes intense. My Aunt Carol. She has cancer. Chemo starts next week. The joke died in my throat. Oh. Man, I'm sorry. Seriously? Yeah, he said, stepping past me into my apartment like he owned the place. He was holding a gym bag. So I did this. Solidarity, you know. He rubbed his hand over his scalp. She's gonna lose hers, so I lost mine first. That's a hell of a thing to do, Gary. She'll appreciate that. He dropped the bag on my coffee table. It landed with a heavy thud. He unzipped it and pulled out a set of electric clippers, the cord wrapped neatly around the body. Your turn. I blinked. My what? Your turn, he repeated, unwinding the cord and looking for an outlet. We're doing this. Solidarity. I took a step back. Whoa, hold on. We. Mark's already on board. He's doing it tomorrow. I came here first. You're my best friend. He plugged the clippers into the wall socket by my TV. He flicked them on. The loud bzzzzzzzzz filled the room, a hostile, invasive sound. He flicked them off. Sit. He pointed at a kitchen chair. I held my hands up. Gary, no. I'm not doing that. His face, which had been set in this grim, determined mask, tightened. What do you mean, no? I mean, no, I'm not shaving my head. I'm sorry about your aunt. I really am. I'll send flowers, I'll sign a card, whatever you need, but I'm not buzzing my hair off. Why not? He demanded, his voice getting louder. It's just hair, Brody. It grows back. It's about the gesture. I get the gesture, I said, trying to keep my own voice level. It's a great gesture for times you times to do. She's your aunt. I've never even met her. That doesn't matter, he snapped, taking a step toward me. It's about supporting me, supporting my family. And I do support you. But I like my hair, man. It took me forever to grow it out. I'm not shaving it off. The look he gave me was pure venom. He couldn't seem to process the word no. It just wasn't in his vocabulary when it came from someone else. You like your times, hair times, he said, his voice dripping with condescending disbelief. My aunt is fighting for her life, and you're worried about your stupid hair. This isn't about your aunt anymore, is it? This is about you not getting your way. Unbelievable, he scoffed, shaking his head. I came to you, my best friend, for a simple show of support, and you're too vain and selfish to do it. It's a goddamn haircut. It's my haircut. On my head, I get to decide what happens to it. You're a real piece of work, he said, yanking the plug from the wall so hard I thought it would rip out of the socket. He started shoving the clippers back into his bag, his movements jerky and violent. A real a-hole. For not wanting to shave my head, get over yourself, Gary. He zipped the bag shut and slung it over his shoulder. Don't bother sending a card, he spat, turning for the door. My family doesn't need fake support from selfish pricks. He slammed the door behind him. The whole building probably felt it. I just stood there in the middle of my living room, the phantom buzzing of the clippers still ringing in my ears. A week later, I was trying to wash the whole thing down with cheap beer. Mark's party was in full swing, the bass from the speakers vibrating through the floorboards. I'd been avoiding Gary, and he'd been avoiding me. The tension had seeped into our whole friend group, forcing everyone to pick a side in a fight that was utterly insane. Mark, for the record, had not shaved his head. He told Gary it was a family thing and he'd feel weird intruding. Gary hadn't spoken to him since. Tonight, Gary wasn't here. It was a relief. It meant I could actually relax. And I did. Maybe a little too much. I did a round of shots with some guys from work, played a few disastrous games of beer pong, and then found a corner of the kitchen to just lean and drink. Easy there, killer, Mark said, appearing next to me and grabbing the beer I was about to open. That's your fifth in an hour. You're done. I'm fine, I slurred, reaching for it. The room was starting to tilt. Yeah, you're real fine, he said, holding the beer out of my reach. Look, you're not driving home like this. The spare room upstairs is all yours. Crash here. Don't want to be a burden, I mumbled. The only burden you'll be is when I have to carry your drunk ass up the stairs. Let's go. He put an arm around my shoulder and steered me through the crowd. The music felt like it was drilling into my skull. He got me to the room, a small space with a single bed and a desk. It was quiet. Blissfully quiet. Keys, he said, holding out his hand. I fumbled in my pocket and dropped them into his palm. All right. Sleep it off, man. See you in the morning. He closed the door behind him, leaving me in the dim light filtering in from the street. I didn't even bother taking my shoes off. I just fell face first onto the mattress. The world spun for a second, and then like a switch being flipped. It went black. I came to in pieces. Not all at once, but in slow, confusing waves. First there was a sound. A low, persistent buzzing right next to my ear. Then a feeling. A vibration against my skull. And a coldness. A weird draft on my head where there should have been warmth. My body felt like it was filled with sand, heavy and useless. I tried to lift my head, but it was too much effort. Something was tickling my cheek. I managed to crack an eye open. The room was dark, but a sliver of light from the hallway cut across the pillow. And on the pillow I saw them. Clumps of my own dark hair. Thick locks scattered like dead leaves. A cold dread, sharper than any hangover, sliced through the alcoholic fog. I forced my arm to move, my hand clumsy and slow. I raised it to my head. Instead of hair, my fingers met the unfamiliar bristly sandpaper of a fresh buzz cut. My other eye opened. My face felt strange. Lighter. I brought my hand down and brushed my fingers over my right eye. Nothing. My eyebrow was gone. My stomach plummeted. The buzzing stopped. The sudden silence was deafening. Slowly, painfully, I pushed myself up on my elbows and looked toward the foot of the bed. A figure was standing there, a dark silhouette against the hallway light. He was holding the electric clippers, the metal head glinting. As my eyes adjusted, I saw his face. It was Gary. And he was smiling. A wide, proud, utterly insane smile. "See," he said, his voice calm and triumphant. "Now we're in this together. Solidarity." The world snapped into focus with a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. It burned away the hangover, the exhaustion, everything. I launched myself off the bed, a raw sound tearing from my throat, and slammed him against the wall. The clippers flew from his hand and clattered to the floor. "What the fuck did you do to me?" I screamed, my face inches from his. He didn't even flinch. He just kept that serene, self-satisfied smile. "I did what you were too chicken shit to do yourself, Brody. I made you a better friend. You assaulted me in my sleep." I shoved him again, his head thudding against the drywall. "It's just hair," he yelled back, his composure finally cracking. "My aunt is dying, and you were whining about your stupid hair. I fixed it for you." The door flew open. Mark stood there. His face, a mask of confusion, then horror. As he took in the scene, me shirtless and shaking with a half-shaved head and one missing eyebrow, the clumps of hair on the pillow, and Gary pinned against the wall looking like a deranged cult leader. "What the hell is going on?" Mark stammered. I let go of Gary and pointed a trembling finger at him. He did this. While I was passed out, I turned to Mark, my voice breaking. "Call the cops!" Gary actually laughed. A short, incredulous bark. "The cops. For a haircut. Are you insane?" "Call them," I repeated to Mark, my eyes never leaving Gary's. Mark pulled out his phone and backed out of the room. I could hear his hushed, urgent voice in the hallway. Gary just shook his head, a look of profound disappointment on his face, as if Times was the one who had betrayed Times him, asterisk. "You're going to throw away our friendship over this?" he asked softly. You're really going to bring the police into this. You threw away our friendship when you came into this room with a pair of clippers, I snarled. You're not my friend. You're a psycho. The police arrived in less than 10 minutes. They separated us, took my statement, and looked at my head with a mixture of pity and disbelief. They found the clippers on the floor. Gary, with a calmness that chilled me to the bone, admitted everything. He told them he was just helping a friend see the bigger picture. They put him in handcuffs. The click of the metal snapping shut was one of the most satisfying sounds I'd ever heard. As they led him away, he looked back at me, his eyes full of righteous fury. You'll regret this, Brody. I was trying to help you. The regret never came. But the harassment did. It started with phone calls from a number I didn't recognize. A woman's voice shrill and accusing. You need to drop these charges. My son is a good boy. You're ruining his life. It was Gary's mother. I hung up. She called back. I blocked the number. The next day, the text started from a different number. Pictures of Gary as a kid. Messages about how he was just trying to support his family, how I was a selfish, vindictive monster. Then a week after the assault, my doorbell buzzed insistently. I checked the peephole. It was her. Gary's mom, a thin woman with a pinched face and the same entitled fire in her eyes as her son. I didn't answer. She started banging on the door. I know you're in there, Brody, you coward. Face me. I ignored her. Eventually, she left. The next day, I installed a small security camera over my door. It felt paranoid, but I had a feeling this wasn't over. I was right. She came back 2 days later. This time, she didn't buzz. She just waited. When I opened the door to leave for work, she was standing there practically vibrating with rage. We need to talk, she hissed. No, we don't. Get off my property or I'm calling the police, I said, trying to close the door. She jammed her foot in the way. You will not ruin my son. He was being a good friend. You're the selfish one. He assaulted me, I said, my voice dangerously low. Now move your foot. That's when she snapped. She lunged her purse, swinging like a medieval flail. It caught me square in the temple, the hard corner of a wallet or phone inside connecting with a sickening thud. Stars exploded behind my eyes, and I stumbled back into my apartment. She came after me, her nails raking down my cheek, drawing blood. You'll drop the charges, she shrieked. You'll tell them it was a misunderstanding. Adrenaline kicked in. I grabbed her wrists and shoved her back hard out into the hallway. Get the hell away from me, I roared, slamming the door and locking it. My head was throbbing and I could feel warm blood trickling down my face. My hands were shaking. I leaned against the door for a moment, then walked over to my phone, opened the security app, and watched the recording. It was all there. Crystal clear video and audio of her ambush, the attack, the whole unhinged tirade. I smiled, tasting blood. Then I dialed 911 again. The legal system grinds slowly, but it grinds fine. Gary's case was first. Faced with undeniable evidence in his own bizarre confession, he pleaded guilty to assault to avoid a worse sentence. The judge read him the Riot Act about consent and bodily autonomy. He got 2 years of probation, 200 hours of community service, and a mandatory anger management course. The entire friend group cut him off completely. Last I heard, his parents sent him to live with some other relatives in another state, a fresh start he in no way deserved. His mother's case was more spectacular. My video was the star witness. Her lawyer tried to paint her as a distraught mother. Pushed to the edge, but the jury saw a violent, entitled woman attacking someone for daring to hold her son accountable. She was found guilty of assault and battery. She got 30 days in county jail, 2 years of probation after that, and was ordered to pay for my medical bills from the emergency room visit. But I wasn't done. I filed a civil suit against her. For the assault, the harassment, the emotional distress. My lawyer said we had a slam dunk case, and he was right. She settled out of court. The check that arrived a few weeks later was for $10,000. I held it in my hand, looking at the numbers. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about consequence. It was a tangible piece of justice. I used every penny of it for a down payment on a small house across town, far away from my old apartment and the ghosts of bad memories. I painted the walls, built a deck in the backyard, and watched my hair grow back slowly at first, then all at once. The missing eyebrow returned a little patchier than before, but it was mine. About a year later, I was at a hardware store trying to figure out which lawnmower to buy when a woman tapped me on the shoulder. "You look like you have no idea what you're doing," she said with a laugh. I turned. "Is it that obvious?" "Completely," she said, her smile lighting up her whole face. "I'm Sarah. My dad owned a landscaping business. Let me save you from that piece of junk." We talked for an hour. She helped me pick a mower, we got coffee, and by the time I left, I had her number. Life moves on. The hair grows back. And sometimes you find out that the best thing a toxic friend can do is show you exactly who they are. So you have every reason to slam the door shut and never look back.
Story 9.
My dad died when I was 7. I remember the smell of his flannel jacket, a mix of sawdust and Old Spice. I remember the scratchy feel of his beard against my cheek. I remember him teaching me how to skip stones across Miller's Pond, his deep laugh echoing over the water when my rock finally bounced more than twice. Then he was gone. A year later, Mark moved in. 2 years after that, my mom married him. 3 years after that, my half-sister Leah was born. That's when the great erasure began. It started subtly. A photo of my dad on the mantelpiece was replaced with a wedding picture of Mom and Mark. Then another family portrait, this one with a baby Leah, took the place of a picture of Dad and me at the zoo. Soon the only photo of him left in the whole house was a small framed 2x3 I kept hidden in my nightstand drawer. For years, Mark has been on a relentless campaign to become my real dad. He tried to adopt me when I was 12. I fought it. He tried to get me to change my last name to his. I refused. My mom just went along with it, sighing and telling me I was making things difficult. Her biggest complicity, though, is the lie she tells my sister. Leah is 10 now, and she has been raised to believe we are full-blooded sisters. That Mark is my father, too. Pam Leah piped up from across the dinner table, pushing a green bean around her plate with her fork. "Can I ask something?" "Shoot," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Why do you call Dad Mark?" I froze my fork halfway to my mouth. I could feel 2 pairs of eyes lock onto me. My mom's were a warning. Mark's were a challenge. "We've talked about this, sweetie," my mom said, her voice a little too bright. "It's just a silly habit Pamela has. From when she was little." Leah's brow furrowed. "She's smart, too smart for these flimsy excuses. But it's weird. Nobody else calls their dad by their first name." Mark cleared his throat and put on his best benevolent father smile. It never reached his eyes. "It's okay, Leah. It doesn't bother me. As long as your sister knows who her family is." He looked directly at me when he said it. The message was clear. I just stared down at my mashed potatoes, my appetite gone. "I'm not hungry," I mumbled, pushing my chair back. "Pamela, sit down and finish your dinner," my mom commanded her, tone sharp. "I have homework." I didn't wait for a reply. I just walked out of the dining room, the weight of their silence pressing on my back. Later that night, I found my mom in the kitchen, wiping down the already spotless counters. "We have to tell her," I said, my voice low. She didn't turn around. "Tell her what? That you're determined to create drama where there is none." "Mom, she's 10. She's asking questions. These silly habit excuses aren't going to work forever. She deserves to know the truth." She finally turned her face set in a hard mask of frustration. The truth. The truth is that Mark has raised you. He has paid for your clothes, your food, your school trips. He's been here for every parent-teacher conference and every scraped knee. Your father is gone. Mark is here. That doesn't make him my dad. My voice was rising and I fought to keep it down. And it doesn't give you the right to lie to Leah. You're lying about me. You're lying about my dad. Oh, stop it, she snapped, throwing the dishcloth into the sink. It's a harmless omission to protect a child's feelings. And frankly, it protects Mark's feelings too. He loves you like his own, and all you do is throw it back in his face. Protecting his feelings. Mom, he's trying to erase Dad. And you're helping him. That is childish nonsense, she said, her voice dripping with dismissal. You're clinging to the past. It's not healthy. Now, I don't want to hear another word about this. The subject is closed. The next week was Mark's birthday. As I was heading out the door for school, he stopped me in the hall. Big plans for your old man's birthday dinner tonight, he asked, grinning. I clutched my backpack straps. I have a study group. His smile faltered. On my birthday, can't you skip it? It's for a midterm. He sighed, a big theatrical sound. Pamela, I just want us to be a family. A real family. He held out a thick envelope. Speaking of which, I was hoping you'd look this over. It's just some forms. I took it hesitantly. Inside were official-looking documents. My eyes scanned the top page. Petition for adult adoption. My blood ran cold. What is this? I whispered, my voice shaking. I know you fought it when you were a kid, he said, his voice dropping into a persuasive, gentle tone. But you're almost 18. It would be your choice. It would just make everything simpler. We'd all have the same last name. One family. I stared at him at the hopeful, needy look on his face. He wasn't just offering, he was pleading. He wanted to own my past, to stamp his name over my father's, to finalize the erasure. No, I said, shoving the envelope back into his chest. The answer is still no. It will always be no. I turned and walked out the front door without looking back. The pressure didn't stop. It got worse. Every conversation felt like a trap. Every family activity was a test of my loyalty. Leah's questions became more frequent, more pointed. She asked why I didn't have any baby pictures with Mark. She asked why my last name was different on my school ID. Each time my mom or Mark would swoop in with a new, increasingly ridiculous lie. I felt like I was suffocating. The lie was a poison and it was infecting everything. It was twisting my relationship with my sister and turning my own home into a battleground. Last night was the final straw. We were watching a movie, and the dad in the film was teaching his daughter how to drive. Leah looked over at me from her spot on the floor. Is Mark going to teach you to drive? I guess I said, he's a good dad, she said matter-of-factly. Then she looked right at my mom. Is he Pamela's good dad too? The air went still. My mom's smile was brittle. Of course he is, baby. I saw the confusion on Leah's face, the little gears turning in her head as she tried to make the pieces fit. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't be a part of it. I wouldn't let them use my sister to bludgeon me into submission. I waited until Leah was in bed. I found my mom and Mark in the living room watching TV as if nothing had happened. I stood in the doorway and switched it off. What the hell, Pamela, Mark said, startled. I looked from him to my mom, my heart hammering against my ribs, but my voice was cold and steady. I'm done. I'm done with the lies. I took a deep breath. I'm giving you one last chance. You are going to tell Leah the truth. If you don't tell her by tomorrow night, I will. My mom's face went white with fury. Mark stood up slowly, his expression hardening into something ugly. You will do no such thing, he said, his voice a low growl. This is my house. She is my daughter, and I am your father. You are not my father, I shot back, my voice trembling with the force of years of swallowed anger. And you will not use your daughter to lie about mine anymore. Tomorrow. That's the deadline. The next day was a tomb. No one spoke to me. At breakfast, my mom and Mark communicated with looks and pointed gestures, acting as if I were a ghost at the table. They thought their silence would break me. They were wrong. It just solidified my resolve. That afternoon, I found Leah in her room drawing a family of unicorns in a rainbow notebook. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open gently and closed it behind me, the click of the latch sounding like a gunshot in the quiet house. Leah looked up, her blue eyes wide. "Are you in trouble?" she whispered. I sat on the edge of her bed, my hands trembling in my lap. "Can I show you something?" She nodded, putting her purple crayon down. I pulled the small framed photo from my pocket, the one I kept hidden in my nightstand. It was creased around the edges from years of being handled. I held it out to her. In the picture, a man with a kind smile and a scratchy-looking beard was holding a much smaller version of me on his shoulders. We were both laughing. Leah took it carefully. "Who's this?" My throat felt tight. "That's my dad." I took a breath. My first dad. His name was Daniel. Her brow furrowed. She looked from the picture to my face, then back to the picture. The pieces were clicking into place behind her eyes faster than I ever could have hoped. "He died," I said softly. "A long time ago. Before you were born. Mom married Mark after..." "So..." "Mark is my dad," she said, her voice a small curious thing, "but he's not your dad." "He's my stepdad," I confirmed, a wave of relief washing over me. It was that simple. It was always that simple. "Oh." She looked at the picture again, tracing my dad's face with her little finger. "That's why you call him Mark." She looked up at me and there was no confusion in her eyes, only a startling clarity. I would call him Mark too. If he wasn't my real dad. She handed the photo back to me. "I'm sorry, he died." My eyes burned with tears. Me too. The door flew open, crashing against the wall. My mother stood there, her face a mask of white-hot fury. Mark was right behind her, his big frame filling the doorway. "What have you done?" my mom hissed, her voice shaking. She lunged forward and snatched Leah by the arm. "Go to your room. Right now." "This is my room," Leah said, confused and scared. "Go downstairs," Mark boomed. "Watch TV." Leah scrambled off the bed and ran out of the room, casting a frightened look back at me. As soon as she was gone, my mom turned on me. "How dare you?" she seethed. "How dare you go behind our backs and poison your sister's mind with your selfish, pathetic stories?" "It's not a story, it's the truth." I stood up, my own anger surging to meet hers. "Something you should have told her years ago." "You are grounded," Mark said, stepping forward. His voice was low and menacing. 3 weeks. No phone, no computer except for schoolwork, and you are not to leave this house. Do you understand me? I just stared at him, refusing to give him the satisfaction of a response. "I asked you a question," he yelled, taking another step closer. "She understands," my mom snapped, grabbing his arm. "Just leave her. It's not worth it." They left, slamming my door so hard a poster fell off the wall. I sank onto my bed, clutching the photo of my dad to my chest, the sound of my own heart roaring in my ears. Later that evening, there was a knock on my door. It opened before I could answer. Mark came in and shut it behind him. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked wounded. It was his most dangerous look. "I don't get it, Pam," he said, sitting on the end of my bed. I instinctively pulled my legs away. I really don't. For 10 years, I have been here. Every single day. I taught you how to ride a bike. I helped you with your science fair projects. I paid for your braces. He leaned forward, his eyes pleading. He's a ghost. A memory. I'm the one who's here. I'm the one who loves you, who provides for you. I'm the one who's going to walk you down the aisle at your wedding. He took a breath, his voice thick with emotion. That makes me your real dad. I stared at him, at this man who had tried for a decade to systematically erase the most important person I had ever lost. All the anger, all the years of resentment coalesced into a single ice-cold point of clarity. No, I said, my voice flat and empty of any heat. You are my mom's husband. You are Leah's father. To me, you are my stepdad. His face fell. And you will never be anything more, I finished. That word step will always be there. Always. He stood up without another word and walked out, closing the door quietly behind him. The quiet was worse than the slamming. The following days were a new kind of hell. The house was thick with a tense, suffocating silence. But the war wasn't over. It had just changed tactics. They turned their attention to Leah. I'd hear them at the dinner table, their voices syrupy sweet. Leah, honey, you know Mark is Pamela's dad too, right? He takes care of her just like he takes care of you. I saw Leah shrink in her chair. But, Pamela said. Pamela's confused, my mom would cut in smoothly. She's being a difficult teenager. We're one family. And Mark is the dad of this family. Pamela's dad and your dad. Yesterday, I heard Leah start to cry. I was in my room, door closed, but I heard her small, hiccuping sobs from the kitchen. I don't understand, she wailed. You're lying. Leah, do not use that tone with me, Mark's voice replied, tight with frustration. We are telling you the truth. Now say it. Mark is Pamela's dad. No, she cried, and I heard her little feet running down the hall to her room, her door slamming shut. A wave of nausea and guilt so strong it buckled my knees, washed over me. I had wanted to give her the truth. Instead, I'd thrown her into the trenches with me. I had made my 10-year-old sister a soldier in a war she never should have had to fight. That night, my mom came to my room. She didn't knock. Are you happy now? She asked, her voice low and venomous. She stood by the door, arms crossed, her face a bitter caricature. I hope you're happy. I didn't say anything. She's a wreck, my mom continued, a cruel satisfaction in her tone. She's crying herself to sleep. She's confused and upset, and it is 100% your fault. This family was fine. We were happy. But you couldn't stand that, could you? You had to drag your father's ghost into everything and ruin it for the rest of us. She looked at me, her eyes cold and hard. You didn't just hurt Mark. You hurt your little sister. I hope you can live with that. She left, leaving the door wide open. I sat there in the silence, her words echoing in my head. I had thought telling the truth was an act of strength, a way to honor my dad. But looking at the wreckage around me, at Leah's tears, and the fractured state of my home, a sick, creeping doubt began to poison my resolve. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I had broken my family just to save a memory.
Story Teen.
It all started a year ago, the day my wife Anna came back from her friend Jessica's wedding. Jessica hadn't just married a guy, she'd married a trust fund. Anna walked into our perfectly normal, perfectly average 3-bedroom house looking like she'd just seen a ghost from the future, a ghost wearing Balenciaga. You should have seen it, Ray, she said, kicking off her sensible heels and dropping her clutch on the counter. The flowers alone probably cost more than our car. And her dress? It was couture. She wasn't just impressed. She was infected. For the next week, all I heard about was Jessica's new life. Jessica's infinity pool. Jessica's trip to Monaco. Jessica's husband who bought her a Cartier bracelet just for, and I quote, being her. I run a small graphic design business from home. I do okay. We have a mortgage, we take a vacation every other year, and we don't sweat the grocery bill. I thought that was the goal. Apparently, I'd been aiming a little low. The first change was a purse. A sleek, black leather thing with a gold clasp I didn't recognize. It was sitting on the kitchen island one Tuesday. New bag, I asked, grabbing a beer from the fridge. Oh, this old thing, she said, not looking up from her laptop. Yeah, just a little something for myself. I saw the receipt peeking out of the dust bag later that night. A little something that cost $800. I made a mental note to check our joint account, but I never did. I didn't want the fight. I didn't want to hear how I should be happy for her, how I was being cheap, how she deserved nice things. The guilt trip was her superpower. A week later, it was shoes. Red sold things that made her an inch taller, and our bank account, I presumed, significantly smaller. Big bonus at work, she announced when I stared at them. We landed the Miller account. My boss is thrilled. She worked in marketing. I knew she was good at her job, but I didn't think she was Louboutin bonus good. Still, I nodded. That's great, honey. You deserve it. What else was I supposed to say? Accuse her of lying. But then the trickle became a flood. Our closet, once a shared space of my hoodies and her department store dresses, started to look like a showroom. Racks of clothes with tags still on them. Brands I only knew from magazines my mom used to buy. Her side of the closet was a Gucci, Prada, Versace invasion. My stuff was getting squeezed into a corner like a refugee camp for sensible cotton blends. One evening, she came out of the bathroom wearing a silk dress that shimmered under the lights. It clung to her in a way that should have made me feel something other than dread. Wow, I said, trying to sound impressed. New dress? It's for the company gala next month. Mark, my boss, said we all need to look the part. He's giving us a generous wardrobe allowance. A wardrobe allowance. For everyone. Well, for the senior team. You know. Incentives. Incentives. That word started popping up a lot. Everything was an incentive. The expensive dinners she started going to after work, the spa days, the weekend team building trip to a Napa vineyard I wasn't invited to. It was all just part of her amazing new promotion. A promotion that, as far as I could tell, didn't come with a new title or a press release, just a fire hose of cash. I felt a knot of suspicion tightening in my gut, but I kept swallowing it down. I was the bad guy if I questioned it. I was the one holding her back, the anchor tied to her rising star. So I played dumb. I complimented the dresses. I told her she looked beautiful. And I started sleeping a little worse each night. The breaking point didn't come with a bang. It came with a hunt for a piece of paper. We were refinancing the house, and the bank needed a copy of our original mortgage agreement. I remembered stashing it in a file box in our walk-in closet. I pushed past the wall of new silk and cashmere, the air thick, with the smell of expensive perfume and new leather. The box was tucked away on the top shelf behind a stack of hat boxes I had never seen before. As I pulled it down, one of the hat boxes tipped over. It wasn't hats that spilled out. It was a pile of receipts, a few jewelry boxes, and a single, crisp white envelope. It didn't have a logo. Just her name, Anna Miller, printed on the front. It felt heavy. I knew I shouldn't open it. It felt like stepping off a cliff. But I was already falling. I tore it open. It was a bank statement. Not from our bank, but from some online-only outfit called Apex Financial. My eyes scanned the page, my heart starting to pound against my ribs. Direct deposit $2, $450. Direct deposit $3 $100. Direct deposit $1 $900. Direct deposit $2 $600. 4 deposits in 1 month. All from her company's payroll department. They were all coded differently: expense reimbursement, performance bonus, project stipend, but they added up to just over $10,000 in 1 month. Her take-home pay, the one that went into our joint account, was around $5,000. This was double. This was a secret. My hands started to shake. This wasn't a bonus. This wasn't a wardrobe allowance. This was a whole separate financial life. I folded the statement, my fingers creasing the paper with surgical precision, and slid it back into the envelope. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it: the file box, the hat boxes, the lie. That night I made spaghetti her favorite. We sat at the table, the silence punctuated by the clinking of our forks. She was scrolling through her phone, probably looking at another $5,000 watch. I needed to know. I needed to see her face when I asked. I took a sip of water, my throat suddenly dry. "Hey," I said, my voice unnervingly calm. "I got an offer in the mail today for a high-yield savings account from a place called Apex Financial. Ever hear of them?" Her thumb stopped scrolling. Her head stayed down, but I saw the color drain from her face. It was like watching a light switch get flipped off. She took a slow, deliberate breath before looking up, forcing a little laugh that sounded like cracking glass. Apex No doesn't ring a bell. Probably just junk mail. She lied. She looked right at me and lied. And in that moment I knew. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was bad. Very bad. The spaghetti turned to ash in my mouth. The knot in my gut wasn't suspicion anymore. It was a cold, hard certainty. I excused myself from the table. I walked back into our closet, the smell of her new life choking me. I reached up, pulled down the hat box, and took out the envelope. The numbers on the page seemed to glow in the dim light. They weren't just numbers, they were a story, and I was going to get to the end of it. I stood there for a minute, the paper trembling in my hand. I could hear her in the kitchen, humming a little tune as she cleared the plates, pretending everything was normal. But it wasn't. And it would never be normal again. I walked out of the closet, the statement held tight in my fist, my shadow stretching long down the hallway ahead of me. She was standing at the sink, her back to me. I took a deep breath. The quiet was about to end. I didn't say her name. I just let the silence hang in the air until she felt it. She turned from the sink, a dish rag in her hand, a fake smile already forming on her lips. It died when she saw the paper in my fist. "What's that?" she asked, her voice a little too high. I unfolded the statement and held it up. "Apex Financial," I said. "You told me you'd never heard of them." Her eyes darted from the paper to my face and back again. The color that had drained from her face at the dinner table was gone for good. She looked translucent under the kitchen lights. "Ray, it's not what you think." "Then what is it, Anna? Because it looks like 10 grand in secret off-the-books payments from your company in a single month. Explain it to me." She leaned back against the counter, her knuckles white. It's complicated. Mark set it up. It's a bonus structure for tax purposes. To help us out. Help us out, or help you buy half of Rodeo Drive. This isn't a bonus. This is stealing. The word hung there, ugly and sharp. She flinched. It's not stealing, it's creative accounting. The company writes it off. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody gets hurt, I laughed, a harsh grating sound. I get hurt, Anna. Your husband. The one who thought we were a team, who didn't know his wife was a common thief living a second life. Tears welled in her eyes. The guilt trip was warming up in the bullpen. I did it for us, Ray, so we could have nice things. So I wouldn't have to feel embarrassed when I'm out with Jessica. This has nothing to do with us. This is about you. You need to call Mark tomorrow, quit your job, and we're going to figure out how to pay this money back. Her face hardened instantly. The tears vanished. No. What do you mean, no? I'm not quitting, she said, her voice dropping to a cold whisper. I won't. You can't make me. She pushed past me and went to the bedroom, slamming the door. The sound echoed the finality of her words. She wasn't just refusing. She was choosing. She was choosing the lie. I stood there for a long time before pulling out my laptop. Her boss, Mark, was easy to find. His Instagram was public. The profile picture was him on a boat grinning a gaudy gold watch on his wrist. I scrolled through his feed. A new Audi R8 posted 2 months ago. A trip to Dubai 6 weeks ago. A picture from last weekend of him and his wife at a charity gala, her neck dripping with diamonds. His lifestyle had upgraded right alongside Anna's. Partners. They were partners. And then I saw it. A video posted from the Napa team building trip. It was a group shot panning across smiling faces. There at the end of the table was Anna laughing. Mark's arm was draped casually over the back of her chair, his fingers just barely brushing her shoulder. It was nothing. And it was everything. I walked back to the bedroom and opened the door without knocking. She was sitting on the edge of the bed staring at the wall. You're having an affair with him. It wasn't a question. She didn't even try to deny it this time. She just crumpled her body, folding in on itself, as a sob tore out of her throat. It's not that simple, she choked out between gasps. It's the simplest thing in the world, Anna. The money, the lies, it all makes sense now. How long? A few months, she whispered. After the scheme started, it just happened. And the blackmail. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock and fear. What? He's got something on you, doesn't he? That's why you won't quit. That's why you looked at me with pure terror when I suggested it. He's blackmailing you. The dam broke. The whole story came flooding out in a torrent of shame and regret. It started with the money, then the affair. One night in a hotel on a business trip, Mark had set up his phone. He had a video. He told her it was their little secret, their insurance policy, to make sure they were both loyal to the plan. But when she tried to cool things off, he'd made it clear it wasn't insurance. It was a leash. He said he'd send it to you, she cried. And to his wife? He'd ruin me. He'd ruin everything. I felt nothing. The sadness, the betrayal. It was all burned away by a cold, white-hot rage. The woman crying in front of me was a stranger. She had destroyed our marriage, our life for handbags and a cheap affair. Show me, I said, my voice flat. What? The video. I want to see it. And all the texts. The emails. Everything you have that proves the fraud, now. She shook her head, terrified. Ray, please. You don't have a choice anymore, Anna. You either give it to me, or I walk out that door right now and you can deal with Mark and the fallout all by yourself. You owe me this. Numbly, she handed me her phone. I watched her fingers tremble as she navigated to a hidden folder. It was all there. Screenshots of bank transfers, emails from Mark detailing how to code the payments, and a thread of sickening text messages. And the video, I didn't watch it. I just saw the thumbnail. That was enough. I forwarded everything to my own phone and then to a new anonymous email address I created on the spot. I attached all the files, the video, the screenshots, the emails to HR director's email, Mark's wife's email. Subject: evidence of fraud and adultery at your company. The body of the email was simple. attached, is evidence of a systematic embezzlement scheme orchestrated by Mark Stanton, along with proof of his affair with his employee Anna Miller, whom he is blackmailing. Do with this what you will, I hit send. Anna watched me, her face ashen. The click of the mouse was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. It was the sound of a bomb detonating. The fallout was swift and brutal. I got a call the next morning from a hysterical Anna. HR had called her into a meeting. Mark was suspended pending a full investigation. By the end of the day, his wife had filed for an emergency protective order and started divorce proceedings. Within a week, Anna was fired, and the word was out. She was radioactive, blacklisted from every marketing firm in the city. She came to the house to pack her things, avoiding my eyes. She was a ghost, haunting the ruins of our life. I have nothing left, she said quietly, folding a silk dress into a suitcase. You have what you chose, I replied, standing in the doorway. I'd already spoken to a lawyer. He'd drawn up the divorce papers. They were sitting on the kitchen counter. I want you to sign these, I said. No alimony, no fight over the house. We split the savings and we walk away. She looked up, a flicker of her old defiance in her eyes. Maybe I don't want to. I just held up my phone, the screen dark. I still have a copy of everything, Anna. Sign the papers, or I can make sure every future employer, every new friend, every person you ever meet gets a chance to see the real you. Your call. The fight went out of her. She walked to the counter and signed her name, her signature, a shaky, broken line. She was gone an hour later. The house was quiet, but the closet still smelled of her perfume. I spent the next week packing every trace of her into garbage bags, the clothes, the shoes, the bags she'd sold her soul for. That Friday, I had my first appointment with a therapist. I sat on a couch that wasn't mine and looked at a man I didn't know. So he said gently, "Where do we begin?" I took a deep breath, the first one that didn't feel like it was being crushed by the weight of the last year. It all started, I said, with a wedding.
Story 11.
I'm telling you, Pais, it's the one, Tom said, sliding his phone across the sticky bar top. The 72 Omega Speedmaster. The Moonwatch. I squinted at the screen. It looked like a watch. A nice one, sure, with a black dial and 3 smaller circles inside, but it was just a watch. It's cool, Tom. Very astronaut-y. He snatched the phone back, offended. It's not astronaut-y, it's iconic. It's the exact reference Buzz Aldrin wore. Finding one in good condition is like finding a unicorn that knows how to file its own taxes. He sighed, taking a long pull from his beer. Chloe's been looking for one for my birthday, but the good ones are, you know. He trailed off, making a gesture that meant times astronomically expensive, asterisk. Tom and I had been best friends since we were building forts out of couch cushions. Now his 25th birthday was bearing down on us, a milestone. He was both dreading and demanding we celebrate with the energy of a music festival. He'd been with Chloe for about a year. She was nice, sweet, artsy, and worshipped the ground he walked on. I liked her mostly. A few weeks later, my boyfriend Liam and I were downtown. He was trying on a suit for his company's ridiculous annual gala, and I was bored scrolling through my phone while he debated between charcoal and navy. To escape the stuffy air of the tailors, I wandered out onto the street. That's when I saw it. Tucked between a sterile art gallery and a coffee shop was a small, dusty storefront with gold lettering times vintage timepieces, asterisk, and there, sitting on a worn velvet pedestal right in the window, was the unicorn. I recognized it instantly from the photo on Tom's phone. The black dial, the clean steel case, the specific layout of the subdials. My heart did a little lurch. It felt like kismet. I pushed open the heavy door, a tiny bell chiming my arrival. "Can I help you?" an old man with a jeweler's loop attached to his glasses asked from behind a counter. "The watch?" I said, pointing at the window. "The Omega. He smiled, a slow, knowing curl of his lips. Ah, the Speedmaster. A 1,972 all original parts. A real beauty. He carefully retrieved it and laid it on a black cloth on the counter. The price tag was tucked underneath. $2,500. A year ago, that number would have made me choke. But Liam's software company had taken off, and my own marketing firm had landed 2 huge clients. We were disgustingly, wonderfully lucky. The price was a splurge, but it wasn't impossible. It wasn't even difficult. I'll take it, I said, pulling out my card before I could second-guess myself. Walking out of the shop with the heavy dark wood box in a bag felt electric. This was more than a gift. It was a gesture, a testament to a 20-year friendship. It was the universe telling me to do something awesome. For the guy who once sat with me for 12 straight hours in an ER waiting room after I broke my arm in a spectacular rollerblading accident. I got home and sent him a text. Asterisk. Asterisk. Me. Asterisk. Asterisk. Hey, weird request for your party Saturday. Asterisk, asterisk, Tom, asterisk, asterisk, is it wear a toga? Because Chloe already vetoed that. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, no. Just, whatever you do, open my gift last. Asterisk. Asterisk, Tom, asterisk, asterisk. Ooh, mysterious. Is it a stripper? Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, just trust me, save it for the grand finale. Saturday night arrived. Tom's apartment was packed with people overflowing with the sounds of laughter and a playlist heavy on 2000s pop punk. I found Tom by the keg already flushed and happy. He gave me a rib-crushing hug. Chloe was beside him looking lovely in a floral dress. She'd hand-painted a massive Happy 25th banner that hung across the living room. Paisley, so glad you could make it, she said, her smile genuine. Wouldn't miss it, I said, handing her a bottle of wine. The banner looks amazing. Thanks, it took forever, but it was worth it. We mingled, we drank, we told embarrassing stories about the birthday boy. Finally, Tom, giddy and a little tipsy, plopped down in the middle of the floor. Gift. Time. Peasants. People gathered around. The gifts were great, rare whiskeys, concert tickets, a framed photo of his dog. Then came Chloe's. She knelt in front of him, holding a large, flat, rectangular object wrapped in brown paper. I made this for you, she said, her voice soft. He tore it open. It was a denim jacket. But on the back, Chloe had painstakingly painted a mural of all his favorite things, a cartoon version of his dog, the logo of his favorite band, a mountain range from a camping trip they'd taken. It was intricate, personal, and beautiful. You could feel the hours she'd poured into it. Holy shit, Chloe, Tom breathed, tracing the lines of paint with his finger. This is incredible. He pulled her into a deep kiss and everyone clapped. It was a perfect, tender moment. Then he looked at me, a wide grin spreading across his face. All right, Paisley. The grand finale. I felt a sudden sharp pang of something. Apprehension, I pushed it down. This was for Tom. I retrieved the heavy box from my bag and handed it to him. He felt the weight, his eyebrows shooting up. He ripped off the paper, revealing the polished dark wood. He lifted the lid. The room went silent. For a full 5 seconds, Tom just stared. His mouth hung open. His eyes were wide. He slowly lifted the Omega Speedmaster from its velvet cushion, his hands trembling slightly. No, he whispered. He looked up at me, his eyes glassy. No. Fucking way. And then he exploded. It wasn't a cheer, it was a roar. He scrambled to his feet, the watch clutched in his fist, and practically tackled me in a hug, lifting me off the ground. Paisley, oh my God, you didn't, how did you even find it? He put me down, holding my shoulders, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated ecstasy. This is it. This is the watch, he was screaming, now showing it to anyone who would look. This is the best gift I have ever gotten in my entire life." He hugged me again tight, burying his face in my shoulder. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," he mumbled into my ear. I was laughing, caught up in his tidal wave of joy. My gaze drifted over his shoulder and landed on Chloe. She was still kneeling on the floor, the hand-painted jacket resting in her lap. She wasn't looking at the watch. She was looking at us. Her face was a perfect blank. She was smiling, but it was just a shape her mouth was making. It didn't reach her eyes. It didn't even come close. The room was buzzing, everyone crowding around to see the watch, but all I could focus on was her frozen, silent stillness. The party eventually wound down. On the ride home, Liam squeezed my hand. "That was a hell of a gift, babe." His reaction was priceless. "Yeah," I said, the image of Chloe's face still burned into my mind. "It was." She looked a little pissed, though, he added, glancing at me. "Tom's girlfriend." "You saw that too?" "Oh yeah." Total death glare. "Don't worry about it. She's probably just feeling insecure. You've known him forever." He was right. I'd known Tom forever. This was just me doing something nice for my best friend. Chloe would get over it. The next morning, I woke up feeling hungover but happy. I rolled over and checked my phone for the time. There was one new message received just a minute ago. The name on the screen made my stomach clench into a tight, cold knot. It was from Chloe. The message glowed on the screen. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, I need you to be honest with me. Did you know I was trying to buy him that watch? My heart hammered against my ribs. I sat up, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. Liam was still sound asleep beside me. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk. He mentioned it at the bar once, yeah. Why? The three little dots appeared and disappeared for a full minute. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. So you knew. You knew I was looking. You knew I was saving. And you just went out and bought it anyway. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, Chloe. It wasn't like that. I just stumbled upon it in a vintage shop. It felt like fate. It was a complete coincidence. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, a $2.500 coincidence. Do you have any idea how out of touch that sounds, or how it made me feel? I spent 6 months painting commissions on the side to save up for that. 6 months. You made that meaningless in 5 minutes with a credit card. My fingers fumbled on the keyboard, my defensiveness flaring hot in my chest. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, that's not fair. I was doing something nice for my best friend. I've known him for 20 years. It has nothing to do with you or your budget. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, it has everything to do with me. You didn't just buy him a gift. You bought him the gift times I times was trying to give him. You waited until after I gave him mine, something I poured my soul into, and then you unveiled this monument to your bank account. You intentionally made me and my gift look small. You wanted to show you could... Asterisk. Asterisk. Me. Asterisk. Asterisk. That's insane. I asked him to open it last to build suspense, not to upstage you. You're twisting this into something ugly. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, am I? Look at his reaction, Paisley. The screaming, the tackling, you in a hug, the best gift he's ever received. He said that right in front of me. That moment of pure happiness you bought, that was shared only between you and Tom? I wasn't a part of it. I was just the audience. And you made sure of that. I stared at the last message, the words blurring. Asterisk, that was shared only between you and Tom. Asterisk, she was right. The image of her kneeling on the floor with that jacket in her lap, her face a blank mask. It wasn't anger or jealousy I had seen. It was exclusion. Asterisk, asterisk. Me, asterisk, asterisk. I'm sorry if it made you feel bad. That was honestly not my intention. The reply came back instantly, cold and final. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. That's the problem. You don't have intentions. You just do things because you can, and you never once stop to think about the people you run over. I threw my phone onto the comforter as if it were burning. Liam stirred, cracking an eye open. What's wrong? He mumbled. It's Chloe, I said, my voice shaky. She's pissed. I handed him the phone. He scrolled through the conversation, his brow furrowing. He read the whole thing, then tossed the phone back to me with a dismissive sigh. I told you, he said, rolling onto his back and staring at the ceiling. Total insecurity. Did you even read what she said? I shot back, my voice sharper than I intended. She's not just insecure, Liam. She's saying I was malicious. That I used our money to humiliate her. Which is nuts, he said, turning to face me. You bought your best friend an amazing gift. She's twisting it because she couldn't compete. That's a her problem, not a you problem. She should be happy for Tom, not trying to make you feel like shit. But what if she has a point, I whispered. Maybe it was too much. Maybe I should have thought about how it would look. Since when do you have to run your gifts by your friend's girlfriend? You've been buying Tom birthday presents since you were 5. Don't let her get in your head. She's just trying to stake her claim. He was so sure, so black and white. But all I could feel was a spreading stain of gray. I felt sick. My phone started ringing. Tom's face lit up the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. Paisley, he boomed, his voice crackling with static and pure joy. I'm at the jeweler's right now. The guy says it's 100% authentic and in damn near perfect condition. Can you believe it? Wow, Tom, that's great, I said, trying to inject some enthusiasm into my voice. Great. It's historic. I can't stop looking at it. Seriously, I must have woken up 5 times last night just to open the box and make sure it was real. He paused. Hey, things are a little weird with Chloe this morning. She's being quiet. Did she say anything to you? My stomach plunged. We texted a little? Yeah, I figured. She'll come around, he said, his obliviousness a blunt instrument. She just gets in her head sometimes. Anyway, we should all go out for a proper celebration dinner this week, my treat. To celebrate the watch? To celebrate the very thing that was making his girlfriend miserable. The very thing that had just become a grenade in our friend group. I don't know, Tom, I said slowly. Maybe we should let things cool off. Nah, it'll be fine. It's just a gift. I gotta go. The guy's back. Talk later. And thank you again. Seriously. Best friend ever. He hung up. I dropped the phone and buried my face in my hands. He didn't get it. He didn't see it at all. Chloe was right. The watch, the joy, the entire multi-$1,000 gesture was a world built for 2. And she wasn't in it. The next few days were silent. I heard nothing from Chloe. My texts to Tom were met with short, distracted replies. The air felt thick with unspoken things. I tried to push it aside to believe that this was a her problem. On Thursday night, I was scrolling mindlessly through Instagram before bed. And then I saw it. It was a new post from Chloe. A photo. In it, she and Tom were sitting on their couch, beaming. He was laughing, head thrown back, and she was looking at him with pure adoration. He wasn't wearing the watch. He was wearing the denim jacket. Her painting was on full display, the dog, the band logo, the mountains, all of it, a vibrant tapestry of their life together. My blood went cold when I read the caption. Asterisk. So proud of this man on his 25th. Some things just can't be bought. Asterisk. I stared, my thumb frozen over the screen. It was a perfectly crafted, publicly displayed knife slid right between my ribs. It wasn't just a caption. It was a verdict. A narrative. To anyone scrolling by, she was the devoted, thoughtful girlfriend. And her handmade gift was a symbol of true love. And I, without even being named, was cast as the rich, thoughtless outsider who tried to buy her way into a moment that wasn't hers. The likes were flooding in. Dozens of them. From all of our mutual friends. Asterisk. This is beautiful, Chloe. Asterisk. Asterisk. You guys are the cutest. Asterisk. Asterisk. The jacket is incredible, so much better than some store-bought thing. Asterisk. That last comment hit me like a punch to the gut. She hadn't just gotten angry, she'd gotten even. She had taken back the story, painted me as the villain, and hung it up for everyone to see. And all I could do was lie there in the dark watching them all applaud.